And we are good to go. Hello, hello. I will be waiting for the first viewers now. Let's see here. Most people have like this sort of starting screen before the live stream starts, and always says something like live stream starting soon. I don't do that. Just jump right in. Just lay out. Hello to my first viewer. Hi, Marla. How are you? So, yeah, it's been a while since I live streamed. I think last time was in December, like before Christmas. Hello, hello, Garnet Chakra. Hello, hello. How are you? Hi, CJ. Not sure what CJ is short for. I suppose it's your name. I'm having my breakfast with you. Oh, that's very, very nice. It's evening here already. For some, I'm sorry. For some reason, my microphone got muted without my permission. It has a mind of its own. I don't know why that happens. Yes, Marla, you said you're having a breakfast. I'm assuming you live in US or somewhere in the Western sphere of this world. But yeah, here it's quite late. But yeah, why are we here? 5,000 subscribers in total, and that's kind of crazy because I started doing YouTube when was it in May last year. It's been precisely 11 months since I uploaded that one video. You're in Seattle, Washington. Nice. Well, I never been to America actually. I so want to go there one day. I'm not sure where exactly. There are like so many places. I suppose Florida would be my first destination. Congrats. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I was saying, it's been 11 months, so it's been almost a year since I was doing YouTube, at least in this way. If you look back, there are like some really old videos of mine that are very different from what I'm doing right now. And so I'm always thinking of this as my actual start of YouTube that started 1 year ago, because back then I was doing something completely different. But I really wasn't expecting this to ever happen, to have 5,000 subscribers. And I don't know how to thank you all, to be honest, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have a good reason to make those videos, really. Sure, I could be making them for myself. It's fun. I love making videos. I love editing videos, but I think it's about a connection with the audience, You're growing in every way. Thank you. Thank you, CJ. Angie says, brilliant. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Thank you. Thank you. And one more time, I want to thank all of you really for this. We got to this point. I don't know how, but who knows where this channel will be a few years from now. We just have to continue working on that. And I I never run out of ideas for new videos because I have plans for enough videos for at least 5 years, to be honest. So you never have to worry that at some point I will just run out of ideas for potential videos. That would just never ever happen. Um, yeah, I uploaded a video just yesterday, directed towards the parents of trans kids. Um, it was an advice on how to communicate with trans kids. Marla says, "You're amazing. I still want to interview you on my channel." Yes. Oh, Marla, you've sent me. No, you wrote a comment on my channel. You didn't send me a message, but I think you wrote a comment that you wanted to interview me. And if I remember correctly, you never responded. So send me a message. Send me an email. You can find it in the channel description. And yeah, I'm up to that. Oh, okay. So you interviewed Buck Angel as well. Oh, that's great. Actually, I don't know how many of you know, but I have been on Buck Angel's channel back in October, I think, and I think I might ask Buck Angel to join me on my channel at some point. Maybe in very near future. Actually, I think that would be great. I really loved talking to Buck. He's a very, very interesting fellow, and yeah, I like Buck. I really like Buck a lot. So, oh, that's me. Yeah, I think a lot of people discovered me through Buck Angel's channel. I think that there were like few waves of people that discovered my channel. It was either those who have discovered my very first video at the beginning 1 year ago, or it was people who eventually discovered me through that same video but later, and then the Buck Angel video, and one video I did in I think November that got quite a lot of views. It attracted a lot of new viewers, and the reaction I did to the debate, it was what's the name of that YouTube channel? It's doing like those debates. Something Common Ground. It was like conservative trans versus liberal trans. Blair White was on that debate. I really don't remember the name of the channel, but I did a reaction on that video, and that got me quite a lot of new viewers too. So it always was coming like in waves, and now there are like also some new viewers who joined me after I uploaded this video on Gemini AI, actually. So always coming in waves. But yeah, Buck. I'll send a message to Buck and see if I can have him over on my channel. That would be really great. And yeah, I also been in touch. Jubilee. Thank you, Marla. That is really helpful. I usually never remember the names of the channels, or I don't remember the names of most people on YouTube either. I'm like, I can tell you what this channel is about, what they usually talk about, but I never can remember the name of like any channel, with few exceptions. But yeah, where else? I have been in touch with Sasha White recently, and she wants to have me on her channel. CJ says, I'll have to go find your reaction video. I remember Blair on it. Yes, yeah, but you know, Blair wasn't even the star of that debate. Was this, what's her name? Sarah, this trans woman. She completely ruled that debate, I think. And then there was, what was the name? The one who just kept talking all the time and was shouting over people. Yeah, I don't remember her name either, but I remember she was really, really hard to watch. And that whole video was really painful to watch. And I sort of regret doing a reaction to that. Blossom. Yeah, thank you, Joseph. Like I said, I'm really bad with remembering names. I'm really bad with whether it's names of the people or names of the channel. It just goes in and goes out a second later. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Blossom so well, except for her name. But yeah, no, she made the whole video so painful to watch. I just I couldn't stand her, to be honest. And yeah, I know it's super mean, right? But it's true. And everyone who's honest are going to say that they can't stand Blossom. Blossom is really, really hard to stand. That's just a fact. Um, yeah, so I was in touch with Sasha White. I don't know how many of you know. No, yeah, Sasha White. I think that's her name. I don't know how many of you are familiar with her channel. She has interviewed Richie, actually, and she reached out to me, and I'll be over on her channel in the near future in just a couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Go check out Sasha White's channel. She makes pretty good content. She deserves viewers. So yeah, after this live stream, go to her channel, try out her content, and subscribe. Joseph says, honestly, I'm glad she exposed herself as an insufferable person. Yeah, I think this is the first time I've ever seen Blossom or heard of her. Like, I've never seen anything of Blossom before, but that was my first impression, and I hope that was my last impression as well. Joe Spring, hi, nice to see you too. Even though I can't really see you, but in some way, let's say I do see you. I think that would be nice to just pretend I can see you all, because otherwise I'm just talking to my PC. And hi, Sarah. It's weird talking to a PC like that, and not thinking that, well, you're actually talking to a couple of people watching this, right? That's why I always prefer doing like talks on the stage in front of people, and I've actually done a couple of those here in Norway. It's always nice to do, even though it's a bit more relaxed when you're talking from home. Yeah, it is really weird. And actually, I've been thinking of doing some new talks about this subject that I touched upon in my last video, and that is namely on the type of parents, the way they are handling their reaction to their kids being trans, and just advising parents how to communicate with their trans kids. I think I'll do a few more like speeches on the subject in Norway. I think that will be great, and I think it's something that could be potentially useful to a lot of parents. And like I said in that video, I've also opened a possibility for the parents of trans kids to chat with me on Patreon if they want to, if they need any advice, and I very often think that it will be very helpful if my parents knew how to talk to me back then to make me change my direction where I was going at that time. But whatever happened, right? But after you come out of it at that end, you're holding on to a lot of experience there, and you're seeing how someone who's young, in their teenage years or early 20s, who's transitioning, might be thinking. And a lot of the time, it's a very black and white thinking. And I'm not saying everyone, right? Because I don't want to put everyone in one single box, but that was the case for me, and I observe it a lot of the time, that a trans kid just sees it as two boxes, right? They have two types of parents, the way they see it. It's either a good parent that is affirming my gender identity, the parent who is supporting me, and then a transphobic one, right? And in reality, it's much more complicated than that. And sure, I guess there are some parents out there who will like disown you for being trans, but there's a huge area of like gray colors in there. Even though gray is technically, well, not a color, but like all those shades of gray, with parents who are just worried about it. Like, is this the right choice for you? What about your health, right? Hormones come with so many side effects. It's important for parents to talk about it with their kid, in a way that doesn't make the kid think like, oh, my parents is just transphobic. And it can be hard to break through that barrier, that wall. Um, let me see a few of those comments here. Thank you, Mercury. Thank you. Martla says, your story of being bullied as a kid can help many as well. They followed. Yes, absolutely. Actually, considering that, I have a friend who's a philosopher. He wrote a really interesting book, and I think it's been published exclusively in the region here. But it's about the way the schools are pretty much letting kids down when it comes to well, he describes like many areas of that, anything from kids needs for nutrition and closeness, someone to trust to. Like a kid is really literally being reduced to a student instead of a kid. Like at the moment you're at school, you stop being a kid, an individual. You are a student, and that doesn't satisfy kids' needs. And one of those topics he touches upon in that book is bullying, and the way he describes bullying is as something much worse than violence. And you might be thinking, violence is a much stronger word than bullying, right? Bullying sounds like, such a trivial thing. It's bullying, it's not violence. But he defines bullying as a violence that persists over time. Violence is when you punch me in the face. But when you torment someone every single day at school over and over again over a course of weeks or months, that's bullying. So in many ways, bullying is actually worse than violence. It's not a separated episode that just never happens again. If you go to a bar, something happens, you punch me in the face or I punch you in the face, that's just violence, and hey, it's over. That's why, I agree with his statement that bullying is actually something much more serious than violence. CJ says, I'm Canadian. The pressure on parents to affirm no matter what. I actually, and I will be making a video on this topic soon, but there's been some politician in Canada, sorry, who what he said is that parents have no rights. There's no such thing as parental rights. Parents have duty, but parents have no rights over their kids. And you know what context it is being used in, right? If we say your son is your daughter, we are making that decision. You have no right to step in here. You have nothing to say there. So I will make a video on that, and I will say a bit more about that in that video. 5K to 5 million. Well, I don't know. We can always hope. Who knows? I've always told my children the truth. I love them and I would support them, but I would not pretend that what they wanted was possible. I think it's a good thing to teach your kids that you can't change your sex, but you can change your appearance. You can masculinize yourself, you can femininize yourself, but at least with current methods, with today's medicine and technology, you literally cannot change sex. You're not I don't know, there are some snails and some frogs that can do it, apparently. And, then there are seahorses where males are getting pregnant. I think it's all fascinating. But we're not seahorses. Human males can't get pregnant. And, this whole thing when people say that men can get pregnant, this whole debate can be ended with one simple statement. Man can get pregnant, but trans men can get pregnant. And everyone knows what we're actually talking about. That's what they mean by that trans men can get pregnant. right? But the thing is, like, trans men are females, biologically speaking. That's the main reason why they can get pregnant, specifically because they are female, biologically speaking. Um, yeah, there's a lot of comments here, so I'm just gonna read more of them. Garnet Chakra says, coming out as trans is pretty heavy. I wouldn't disown my future child, but I'd be concerned for them. Yeah, and again, I think that's where most parents are really coming from. It's from a place of concern. And in that video I posted yesterday, I talked about the four categories, types of parents. One, which is mostly affirming, to just be nice to their kid, like, oh, that's what they want. Yeah, I will be this liberal parent. Then there is the concerned one. And then type 3 is extreme version of 1. There's a narcissistic type of parent who wants to have a trans kid just to show how amazing and how tolerant they are. And they don't care if the kid is trans or not. It's all about the status there. Whereas type 4 is this extreme version of type 2. It's a very authoritarian parent. It's a parent who is mostly just concerned about, just like type 3, type 4 is also concerned mostly about themselves, not about kid. And it's this sort of disagreeable type who's just like, no, I don't believe in this trans bullshit. You're wrong, I'm right. But the thing is, with that attitude, it's very hard to break the ice and establish communication with your kid if you're being this confrontational. So type 2 will have a much easier way to break that ice and establish the communication and good relationship with their trans kid. And yeah, I think building trust and building good relationship is essential in order for your kid to trust you, right? Because if you just jump right in and start talking about that trans stuff, they will question your intentions, right? And if they want to believe you that you are just concerned, that you don't dislike them for being trans or anything like that, that's where you get to the part where having that communication is actually possible. Marla says, I was bullied terribly too. I still deal with it in my subconscious decades later. Yeah, it sticks with you, doesn't it? It never really goes away. And I haven't actually talked much about bullying on this channel ever since that first video. And there's a reason for it. It's not my favorite topic, and I surely wasn't expecting it to come up as a topic today, but it happened. Oh my god, I don't even know what to say there. It's really, really hard to talk about it. But you get to a point in life where you have moved on, right? Perhaps you made even a good life for yourself. You're pretty happy, but there's like this part of it that's always there. If bullying was a bullet and that bullet was taken out of you, out of your body, there will be like this small piece of that bullet still stuck in there. And that bullet never ever goes away. And you're aware that it's there. You learn to live with it. But every once in a while, you might just by accident touch the area where you were shot, and it hurts. And it's like there might be, I don't know, a certain memory or even a dream that might trigger this. And this is actually one of my least favorite types of dreams, is that I'm back at school. And the thing is, like, I'm the same age I am now, but everyone around me is the same age they were back then. Those same people who bullied me. And, like, I'm older than them, I'm bigger than them, but for some reason, I'm, like, feel so weak and defenseless, so helpless. Like, I can't do anything. And yeah, that's one of my least favorite dreams. And whenever I have a dream like that, my whole day just goes to hell. after a dream like that, I have one of those days when I'm thinking, you know what? I don't want to do anything. I'm just gonna stay in my bed. Um, Fabia says, once you get over the shock, if there was no clue before, then you see it's still the same person. The real only thing that needs to be not encouraged is the medicalization and surgeries. Yeah, I mean, oh, I would never encourage surgeries, really. And there was a time when my mom actually encouraged the surgery, and it's not because she was like so that she wasn't part of the ideology by any means, but she was thinking, well, if you're already transitioning, why not go all the way? Why would you want to be somewhere in the middle there? I think like society is going to accept you better if you go all the way, if you get the surgery. I just wish my mom had more knowledge about the all the complications of the surgery and just how bad the effects of that surgery are. Because I don't think it's something that is being talked about enough, really. And I think it's really interesting. It's always very interesting to find people who are trans and who haven't detransitioned, but who also suffered from the consequences and who regret their surgery. Because when we talk about transition regret, a lot of the time we are focusing on detransitioners, but we are forgetting that people who still identify as trans can still suffer the same complications, the same side effects, and they might be happy with their transition otherwise, but they might regret this small part of their transition, which is a surgery. Everything else, yeah, they're happy with that, but they might be thinking, oh, I wish I didn't have that surgery. Like, that just ruined everything. And funny thing is that, and it's something I mentioned briefly in the documentary, The Lost Boys, that I starred in. It's not here in Norway. We don't really have a word for the transitioner. It's something like regretter, like someone who regrets, and that is not precise enough, really, because not everyone who detransitions regrets, and not everyone who regrets detransitions, right? I really don't like this term, and yeah, it's not common for Norwegians to use the term detransitioner, but I think it has to change. I'm trying to normalize the use of this word here, but and here's the thing. I think this is one thing that I think trans people in Norway are actually better at than the gender critical or the conservative part here, is that they are more likely to accept the term detransitioner, but I see most of like conservative and gender critical people here not using that word at all, and yeah, I'm trying to do something about it, just normalize that term. Garnet Chakra says, I was bullying for being very tomboyish in school. I had my hair cut to my ears and wore basic long sleeve tops, jeans. It was the opposite for me, and I was bullied for having longer hair. And there was a time, like in my teenage years, I had hair even longer than what I have right now. And I never thought of it as a feminine thing. I really loved like metal and rock music, and some of my favorite bands at that time, like Iron Maiden, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Metallica, Nirvana, that sort of stuff. They all had long hair, and I always liked that aesthetic, and I always loved music, Um, not long after that, just started playing guitar, and I just thought, again, it's really really cool for men to have long hair. But the environment I grew up at, they thought it was really weird. Like, everyone was a skinhead where I lived, like super short hair. I don't think they had. Well, okay, maybe closely to the ideology of skinheads as well. Perhaps some of them, but it was like this sort of putting up a bravado there, like that's what is being seen as masculine, and it's very very performative. I think it's a very fake type of masculinity, and I think for a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, it's just something they catch up on, like, oh, this is the way to be a man. I have to be like this. I have to put others down. But real men don't put other people down. Real men build other people down, and real men build themselves up as well. Like, yeah, I think it's a good advice to teach your kid, your son. Don't put others down. Build yourself up. CG says parents have gone to jail here for rejecting hormone blockers. Yes, always bring scientific facts to the table. I've been hearing some of those stories where that is happening, and that's sick. Really, like, and that's one of my reasons why I always been saying that there's a big difference between right and wrong, and what is legal or illegal, or what is criminal. Because who's deciding that, right? I don't think there's like a universal right for wrong in every single occasion. I think there are cases that are more complicated. They require ethical examinations, but I think in some ways, I think there are some elements of right or wrong that I think are just a ethical foundation, not necessarily of the universe, but of our consciousness. And I think that consciousness is part of, or at least, well, the origin, the source of morality in humans. But yeah, here you have a case where, just being a concerned parent, it is the right thing to do, but it can be illegal, right? Ondikla, I don't know if I'm pronouncing name right. That's not the point, but to look like the other sex, to be treated as such. Yeah, I think that's the goal for a lot of trans people, is to be treated as the opposite sex. And actually, this is something I have observed. At least I had some trans women say it to me, that they are going through those facial feminization surgeries, not for this reason, like, oh, I want to look better as a woman, I want to be pretty and cute and all of that. It's more like, if I go for this facial feminization surgery, the society will treat me as a woman, right? Like, that's the goal. And the big question here is, well, how do we deal with that? How do we discourage people from getting those surgeries? And I'm thinking, would it actually be a solution if we are more accepting of the fact that trans women don't always look like biological women? Because trans women are not biological women. I think, trans women are sort of a separate category there. Like, I don't reduce trans women to men, but also I don't think they are women, like biological women. That's the trans women, the trans part, like you're transitioned there. And I'm not saying that trans women or trans men are the third sex, but you're allowed to have, through there's medical and technological means, you're allowed to have like this transitioning slot in between there. But we're not advanced enough to actually go all the way, so you end up being somewhere in between, right? And should we be more accepting of the fact that trans women don't look like biological women, and that is okay? Because if we do attack trans women for looking the way they do, if we treat them different because of that, that just encourages people to get more of those surgeries. And my goal was always not to my goal was never to like go after trans people, tell them they're wrong. My goal has always been, throughout the existence of this channel, to discourage people from having surgeries or taking any steps that might endanger their health. I think that's the most important thing here. Yeah, Gone Checker says, plus, medically speaking, I don't think it's safe or right to even put your kid on puberty blockers. Yeah, and there's been more and more research happening on why puberty blockers are not reversible. Puberty blockers come with range of different side effects, and yeah, is it a responsible approach to just put your kids on puberty blockers? I don't think so, really. Not in most cases. I mean, here's the thing. Let's say you have maybe few kids out there whose gender dysphoria is really, really bad. And well, let's say if they actually went on puberty blockers, that will elevate the dysphoria. They might be doing better at school, perhaps, get better grades. They will be happier otherwise. I think that will be true in some cases. But the thing is, like, it's not like every single case of gender dysphoria is the same. And the way the healthcare has been approaching it is, oh, your kid has gender dysphoria, let's put them on puberty blockers. In more than 90% of cases, that will be completely unnecessary. There are a lot of trans people who haven't been on puberty blockers, and they somehow, have managed to live a good life after that when they transitioned in the late 20s, or even in the early 20s or late 90s, and even you have people who transitioned in their 30s and 40s, and there are some who wish they transitioned earlier, of course, but then you have those who are happy with that as well. And well, there's a very hard way to prove that puberty blockers in most cases actually do make much of a difference. I mean, if the kid is actually suicidal and they're doing bad at school, they live a horrible life because of that gender dysphoria, and puberty blockers might elevate that, it is something to discuss, perhaps, whether, well, are the side effects of puberty blockers and the fact that it's irreversible is worth it? I think in extreme cases, yes. But most cases are not extreme cases. Most kids do not need puberty blockers. Besides, I think by treating everything as if extreme case was a standard, you're putting a lot of kids in unnecessary danger, a path to medication. It's not just path towards medication, you are already medicating them from a very young age. From a very young age, you were making them dependent on those meds. And if they're going to continue transitioning, they'll be taking those meds for the rest of their life. It's really unhealthy to just, fill your body up with meds from that age, unless it's, unless it's really, really necessary for your survival. Oh, I had a thought on my mind and it escaped me. I'll get back to it later if it ever comes back. Wasp Venom Lemonade says, I wonder why no one ever tried setting up a donor program, like how people can get organ transplants. Are you referring to like a sex reassignment surgery, like donating sexual organs? I'm not sure how that would work, actually, if we are there yet. People have been actually talking about it for quite a long time, but I haven't seen it happening so far. Oh, there's actually an episode of South Park they did many years ago with sorry, with the teacher, Mr. Garrison and Mrs. Garrison, who had sex reassignment surgery, and he wanted his penis back, and they grew his penis on the back of a mouse, and that mouse escaped and was running through town, scaring everyone, just with that wiggly penis on top of it. I don't know why that just reminded me of that South Park episode. Joseph Wagner says, I was bullied by my dad for being gay, and it's made me hate my body for many years. I'm really sorry to hear that, buddy. He made me equate being a man with being straight and being like him, and I started to hate my maturing body. Yeah, you know what? That was the same case for me, even though, well, I wasn't bullied by my dad. That sounds really horrible. It's bullying sucks in general, but when it comes from your parents, that's even worse. I'm sorry, my sore. My throat is still a bit sore. I have been sick for 3 weeks now, and it's like it's getting better, but still like little coughing, and stuff like that. But yeah, what you said. I equated being a man with being straight as well, for a very, very long time. And that is also part of the reason that when I detransitioned, I was trying to date women. Mostly, because I felt like that's what men do. I have detransitioned. I have to be a man now. And, I've noticed something very similar with some trans men where they are dating women just to feel more like a man rather than actually being attracted to women. They are still attracted to men, but they think that they have to do it for some reason. I think that's relatable. I think that's very relatable, at least for me. Wasp Venom Lemonite says, "I'm 43 and straight, and I still dream about that time period in life." Yeah, I think it's common for people to dream about their school days. Unfortunately, for some of us, maybe even many of us, those are bad memories. Oh, I'm really, really sorry about this. I'm just coughing here like crazy. Fabi says knights had long hair. Samson had long hair. It's not actually a female thing in history. No, it's really, really not. Vikings had long hair as well. Many like warriors throughout history had long hair. Actually, a lot of the time that was associated with masculinity in many cultures, and that I think, and this is something I've been thinking quite a lot about lately, is that we have this idea of traditional masculinity, but what we consider traditional masculinity is maybe like 200 years old. It's an idea that it's 200 years old. Is it really that traditional? Um, a lot of generations before that didn't really live up to that traditional masculinity, but we have this idea like this is something we have to bring back. I don't like to call it traditional masculinity, really. Ondikla says, I always wanted long hair, but my parents didn't allow. Maybe that's one thing that made me trans. Interesting. Um, even before I started identifying as trans, I remember very clearly this one incident when I was out with my mom shopping for shoes. And there was this pair of shoes I really liked, but she said, "No, that's for women, that's for girls. You can't wear that." And for me, I was just thinking, well, they're pretty cool shoes, right? I like those shoes, and they were not like some super feminine shoes. They were not like pink or anything. Those were not high heels. They were just regular running shoes. And I don't know. For me, they looked like very unisex in a way. But my mom said, no, those are not for boys. And you it makes you think that there's this clear barrier for you can or can't wear, because of those social gender standards. And then you're thinking, well, I like those shoes, and you want to break that wall, right? To reach out for the shoes, you want to explore what's on the other side. And I just think that sort of curiosity is very natural for young people. And I think that even teenagers who are cross dressing, who are either men who are boys who are very feminine or girls who are tomboys, or cross dressers in general. I think for many of them, or at least some of them, it is not something they're going to continue doing for the rest of their life. It's an exploratory period of their life. That's where you're supposed to find out who you are exactly, right? And I don't think it's dangerous for kids to explore that. But the problem comes when we have those teachers and ideologues who will tell you, hey kid, I think you're trans. Want to look like up into this thing? Check this out. You might have gender dysphoria. You might actually be trans. You're not really a boy, you're a girl. And we are confusing kids. And I think it's a much healthier way to just let kids explore it on their own instead of just feeding them all of that. Yeah, I'm a little behind with the comments, but I'm trying to read all of them. Oh yeah, and another thing, you said that having long hair, but you wanted to have long hair, but your mom didn't allow it. That might be the reason why you think you might have turned out trans. Well, Vicky, there's a chance for that, but I think in most cases that wouldn't be the main reason. It usually has to come with something. I think it's more of a correlation rather than causation there. But then again, it's your case, it's your life. I mean, of course, I don't know it any better than you do why you transitioned, but my mom actually always liked long hair on men, and that's why she always liked it when both me and my brother had longer hair. My brother also had very long hair when he was at least when he was a kid, and that was mostly my mom's decision. And yeah, I think it's cool. Hmm. CJ says, my youngest son, 12, decided to cut his hair this year because of the bullying of the last 2 years got to him. He cut off 2 feet. I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, kids can be horrible. Kids can be so mean. But it's even worse when they carry that bullying stage into their adulthood, because, well, when you think of like school bullying, you might be thinking that juvenile, but then you have those certain kids who continue being bullied in their adulthood, and then it's pretty much psychopathic at that point. Joseph Wagner says, I don't think that a trans person is entitled to be treated as the opposite sex. That's too sacred of a space for people. Well, I mean, my personal opinion is depends to what degree. Like, should we allow anyone into women's sport, for example, because they identify as women? No, I don't think so. But I think there are like certain standards where, yeah, I have no problem with that. Like, let's say I'm talking to someone who's a trans man. Like in personal conversations, I would just refer to them as man. I was like, hey man, what's up? I wouldn't say, hey trans man, what's up? Unless that trans part is actually important for the context of the conversations. Because, it is important, right? In a lot of the cases, this difference is really important to point out, especially, when it comes to medical stuff. Like males and females have different lung capacity, for example. And, when it comes to certain doctor visits, that may be important to know. Sarah McNamara says, do you play keyboard, Alex? Yes, I do, but guitar is actually my main instrument. I like playing guitar. I am not as good at keyboard as I am in guitar, but I think it can be very fun. Like, I don't play anything complicated on the piano. Like, I think classical music is just too hard to play on piano, but I use it mostly for like very simple piano parts in some of my songs, or like some background synth kind of thing. I think some like music, like themes from films, can be fun to play on piano. Yeah, I also play bass guitar. I have a bass guitar over there, electric guitar, one acoustic guitar, and I also play a little bit of drums. But I haven't actually touched drums since oh, when was it? I think either 2019 or 2020. I haven't played drums in 4 or 5 years, and yeah, I would like to do that too because I'm always drumming on something with my fingers and my hands. Joseph says they should just be accepted for their own unique experience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And Niklas says, I've always thought that being a feminized man is still better than a non-feminized man. Oh well, I think that's highly subjective. Jones says the problem is when they want to be treated as the opposite sex and enter women's change rooms, sport, or when they say they're lesbians and want to enter lesbian spaces. Yeah. And that's what I also touched upon in my last comment. I agree on that. I mean, here's the thing: if a trans woman is in a relationship with a lesbian, and that lesbian is okay with that, that's cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know. And if she still wants to call herself lesbian when dating a trans woman, I think that's cool too. But it's when someone says, when a trans woman says, "Oh, I am a woman, I am a lesbian. You have to date me, or else you're transphobic." I think that's when it becomes toxic at that point. And yeah, you also said, I think there is an element of homosexual conversion where they rather be trans than gay. I like to compare it to conversion. Like I don't think it's actually a conversion therapy, because a conversion therapy requires like active measures to do that. There's like certain thing we call conversion therapy, but I think, well, at best, I think it can be qualified as sort of a passive conversion therapy. What is happening with gay people who transition? But I don't actually think that's the main goal here. I think it's just accidental, Although I don't know, a medical industry, just like many other industries, can be, well, I wouldn't say evil, but if there's anything evil, they're closest to that, really. Stephen Ashford said, in all debates I've heard around hormone medicines and surgical treatments, no one ever asks how many have to have bad reactions or change of thinking before it would be considered unacceptable. Yeah, it's almost like, to find out a solution, you have to have some casualties, right? That's what I mean. Isn't medicine generally just trial and error to find something? And that, I think the same goes for psychology as well. And the whole trans thing is actually a very, very new thing. Like if you think about it, like the treatment of trans people has been going on for maybe I don't know 60 years, something like that. And I mean, of course, it's not going to be advanced, right? Like, and I'm thinking, no matter how you approach it, there will be some casualties along the way, because it's such a new field. And that's why I think it's very, very important to have those conversations about it. How do we proceed? And I think in order to find the best path forward, you need to hear all sorts of voices, and that is why I hate this whole idea of shutting people down, not letting people talk because, oh, your ideas are not aligned with ours. that's the worst thing you can do, because in order for society to move forward, we need to have civilized discussions about things, and that can only happen when there's actually mutual respect for different opinions. CJ says, I feel like males are being sacrificed deliberately by my government with the policies around transitioning, especially children. They are doubling down on harming children. Um, a lot of people are, and it's one thing I've noticed, that there's this big concern with girls transitioning in particular, right? And it's a lot of the time like boys are being forgotten there, right? What is happening to boys? And this is actually not a new thing. There have been I think it's an article from either late 80s or early 90s or something like that, where someone wrote that more and more young girls are considering transitioning or identifying as transgender, something like that. And it's just, for most people it was unheard of, but there are actually like, those are hidden articles, but there are like articles about it at that point. So because it's really not a new subject, right? This has been happening for 60 years, and a lot of the time when people were discussing this from a skeptical perspective towards transitioning, they were always focusing on young girls in particular. And I think that too is just such an instinctive thing, right? Because, well, we like to think of girls as more helpless, right? Like that's a lot of thing. This activates like some sort of instinctual need to protect girls more than boys. And then we also have more protective towards children than adults, right? I think the hierarchy there goes like male, the one we need to protect the least, like adult male, then adult female, then young boys, and then young girls. I mean, there's a hierarchy to everything in everything we do, and it's so biological, actually, if you think about it. Yana the Judas Goat says, happy 5,000. Thank you. I know, I'm getting old now. No, but seriously, thank you. Stephen Ashford says, at the moment I was allowed to have my hair now I stopped getting it cut. Was down to my own waist and had about a decade of when are you going to get your hair cut before my parents gave up. Yeah. I never heard that coming from my parents. My dad also had a longer hair when he was younger. I remember looking at a picture of my dad when he was younger. I found that picture maybe 2-3 years ago. And I was thinking, oh, you know what? He looked like Leonardo DiCaprio on that picture, actually. Vasp Fennel Lemonade says, your piano is lovely. Thank you. It's a pretty nice piano, and it's a Casio piano. I like it. I wish I was bad at it. Drymel9 says, but you could also negate it and consequently use sex-based pronouns and other words like man. Are you? Well, your comments could be read in many, many different ways, because I'm not sure if you were referring to trans men or trans women here. That's why I don't exactly know how to respond to that. Joseph Wagner says, as per my last comment, it had more to do with things like people's sex lives. I am not open to trans men because I do see them as masculine females, not as men in the way that I'm attracted to men. Yeah, I think those are just personal preferences, right? And I think people are allowed to have those personal preferences. I mean, the whole idea of LGBT communities was first built around the freedom to have those personal preferences. the freedom who you want to date, who you want to sleep with, right? And I don't believe in enforcing that really. Although I'm open to dating trans men if I was single. Like I wouldn't have an issue with that, to be honest. But then again, I'm also, and for me, it's not necessarily the case that I am attracted to males, but I'm attracted to masculinity. So I like men, and I like masculine women, and I like trans men. Well, I think it's more important for me that we are aligned in terms of our ideas and our values. I always think that's more important. And I think I would be even open to dating a feminine woman, but relationships would be pretty much asexual. Like I wouldn't be interested sexually, but I still would be open to have someone as a partner, because I don't think that the sexual aspect of it is the most important part of relationship. Really, it's more about how would you cooperate? How do we get along? Do we have similar values? Do we have similar ideas? Do they align? What about our plans for the future? All of that. I think that's the most important part of it, really. And how much time of your life and like percentage do you spend having sex? Not much. Yet a lot of us like so much focus and value on that one thing. And for me, it's sort of like eating chocolate. Like when you eat chocolate, it's nice, but how much time of your life do you spend eating chocolate? Well, it's probably less than 0 point something percent, right? Unless you're eating it all the time, which I really, really wouldn't recommend. But then again, chocolate is actually good for your heart. Just a little bit of chocolate every day is good for you, especially dark chocolate. It's really, really healthy. Then again, milk chocolate is can be good for you as well, only it has less percentage of the cocoa. So it's obviously more healthy to eat dark chocolate. Um, where was I? Yeah, Wasp Venom Lemonade says, just when we hear on the news about trans men in women's changing rooms and knocking them out at sports, I think they're probably Antifa and they're being paid to act that way. Interesting theory. I'm always interested in hearing those types of theories, and some might call them conspiracy theories even. But it's always fun to discuss that, right? Um, could that be the case? Yeah, absolutely. Is it the case? I don't know, but yeah, it can definitely be the case that someone is actually being paid to do that. And you know how those extreme cases get like most attention on the internet, right? And I also have been thinking, well, is the right, like the political right, the conservative side, also a bit guilty of that? Because you have those most insane voices on the progressive left being amplified by conservative media, because they're talking about this all the time, put so much attention to that. And the thing is, if you let some crazy TikToker just say the bit and just disappear into nothingness, nothing would have happened. But the right wing is also amplifying those voices. I think we shouldn't be giving those voices that much attention, and instead actually give more voice to reasonable people, reasonable trans people. And I think even some progressive trans people can be reasonable as well. But that's the thing with the media, right? You don't want to amplify those reasonable voices. You want to amplify the madness. You want to amplify the screaming and all of that. And it amplifies also the most insane voices on the right as well in some ways. And then people are busy just pointing their fingers at each other instead of trying to find common ground and actually, stay stronger as people. Joseph says, do you want to be seen as man fully and it's not that simple. It gets a little violating when somebody expects me to ignore something that major about themselves just because they want to be affirmed. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of individual too. Um, I talk to some trans people who like, I definitely want to be seen as my desired sex, but I'm not going to like engage in women's sport to be part of that because like I respect that. I respect why the category of women's sports was created in the first place, and I think that's cool. I think there's always a reasonable degree of something, right? And well, let's say hypothetical scenario where let's say in the future there will be less differences between trans women and biological women in terms of strength, where that will be pretty much equal, where trans women wouldn't have that advantage there. Would it still be unethical for trans women to engage in women's sports? Well, in terms of competition, I don't necessarily think so, but should they use the same changing rooms? Like with the case with Leah Thomas, when Leah Thomas was in the changing room with other women, and perhaps I don't know if Leah Thomas did it. So don't say I did say that because I'm not saying it. But there are probably some who would even be waving their dicks around without a care in the world, and I think that's breaking a certain barrier of respect at that point. But in terms of competition, if we advance to the point where transition is possible, to the point where trans women can, in terms of strength, be on equal terms as biological women, yeah, I would be cool with that. Really, like I don't see an issue there because the problem is the unfair disadvantage. Um, Dreamall9 says they can't call themselves whatever they want, but we call them a heterosexual couple. Well, I don't think people should care about what someone is calling them from the outside. Like, if they want to see themselves as homosexual couple, you want to see them as heterosexual couple. You see it different ways, and that's cool. Like, but that's also my thing about like non-binary. If a non-binary person would want to ask me how many genders or sexes that I think there are, I would say two. But now I was to say, well, if that's not what you think, why do you care what I think? Go and be you. Like, do whatever. Like, why should your happiness be dependent on how others view you? As long as that's the case, as long as you need the whole world to affirm the way you view yourself, you're doing it wrong, honestly. Undikla says, according to stats, self-identified lesbians are still more willing to date trans women than self-identified straight women do. Yeah, I would think so too. I think so too. I think I also think that homosexual men are more likely to date a trans man than straight men are to date a trans man. To be honest, definitely. Wasp says these political people believe in violence against the oppressor class. They're aggravating. That's a very Marxist idea, right? Violence towards the oppressor class. And well, the thing is that our ideas who the oppressors are is not always correct, right? But well, you go on with the violence, right? And it's enough if like some third party, like the media or whoever, convinces you who the oppressors are, and yeah, you go after them, even though those people are not oppressors in the first place, right? And do I think the oppressors exist? Yeah, absolutely. I believe the elites are the oppressors. I believe that the government is the oppressors, some corporations, absolutely. But I don't think people are oppressors based on things that are outside of their control, like race, like their sex or gender or their sexuality, and we tend to put like straight, white, cis male. I hate that term cis because that's not what biological males and women choose to call themselves, right? And for that reason, I think of it as a slur. But that's the way they see it. Like that's the oppressor, and it's so easy to just convince people to do that. And even if you're like might be hardcore left, you might even see the middle class as an oppressor. And there's really not that much difference between the working class and the middle class as there is between the middle class and the elites in terms of the income they make. And I just wish that the working class on the left could be able to cooperate with the middle class in a much higher degree than they do, because I don't think that sort of animosity there is necessary, really. Especially when most middle class people are good people who have worked to achieve what they have. There's really nothing wrong with that. And when we're talking about the elites, multi-billionaires who are actually super power hungry, who are corrupted, that's a whole different category than the middle class. Yeah, Westbus says, I hear Canada is strange these days. I live in Texas. Well, let me tell you, I'm glad I don't live in Canada. And number one is because I'm not a big fan of the Prime Minister there, Justin Trudeau. And you know what? Actually, I did this a video on the Gemini AI, the way it like swaps races of people, so it presents black people as German soldiers from World War II. There's this picture, I think it's Elon Musk that posted it, and he jokingly said that, oh look, this Gemini AI generated pictures of Justin Trudeau as like different ethnicities. And the thing is, like, that is not actually AI generated. Like, this is actually Justin Trudeau apparently doing blackface. Client email says, as an older woman from early days, how do we know how to act around trans people? I remember the first trans operation that was public. It was definitely odd. I think it's still odd after all these years, to be honest, and it hasn't really advanced much. Possibly like not at all. No, maybe there's like some better techniques they're using, but there's still the same complications are happening. It's still at the very bottom of what it could possibly be, really. And it's not just me saying this. It's actually, I also heard trans people saying this as well. So CJ says, but the children shouldn't be part of the medical experiment. Yeah, are you referring to what I said about puberty blockers? Whether there are like some extreme cases where I think it could be worth doing? Well, like I'm not like have my mind made that there are cases where we have to use puberty blockers, but I think there are extreme cases where it can be debatable. Like if there would be some chance that they will do better at school, some chance that they will be less suicidal if they do that. Is it a risk worth taking? But I think the parents should definitely have a say in that, not the doctors. I think that's a decision that should rest on parents' shoulders in those extreme cases. But like I said, in most cases, kids do not need to go on puberty blockers. Stephen Ashford says, genuinely wish everyone could feel happy in themselves and be kind to each other. Yeah, wouldn't that be a perfect world? Valeria says, "How old are you, Alexander?" I'm like I said, I'm 5,000 years old now. We're celebrating my 5,000th years birthday. Nah, I'm I'm actually 31 right now. Even though a lot of people say I look younger, and that is definitely the effect of transition. But I've seen worse cases. I've seen cases where some people who went on puberty blockers and transitioned, and then detransitioned in their 30s, and they look like they're like 14, 15. You know, most people these days say think I'm like 20, something like that. I also hear, I think the lowest I've ever heard someone calling me was 15. Someone said I'm 15. But then, I think it was 2 months ago. I went to the store, a grocery, just doing grocery shopping at a convenience store. And there was these kids running around, and they were hiding behind the aisle and scaring each other, like jump scaring. And I just was passing by, and one of these kids tried to jump scare one of the mates, and it was just me going by, and they jump scared me. And I just laughed it off, and he ran to that other kid and told him, I just scared this old man. And I think that's the first time in my whole life that someone called me an old man. I have never been called an old man in my whole life, but I guess, yeah, there's always has to be that one point where you get called that. Unless you're a woman and someone calls you an old man. That's even weirder. Um, Bramley Adams says, I've lost respect for women, men, and people generally over trans. I find it hard to try to meet other women because of this. Any advice? It's like being in a church and realizing the clergy are abusive. Well, I think, you know, it's sort of an exaggeration, to be honest. And with all due respect, I think it's sort of like saying that, um, like, MGTOW people saying, "Oh, I lost respect for all women because they're gold diggers and all of that. There are no good women out there." And then there are those feminists who are like, all men are pigs and all of that. I think there's a lot of good people out there. And what do you mean that you lost respect for all the people over trans? Are you trans yourself, and you lost respect for people because you find it hard for someone to date you? Or are you not trans and you lost respect for people over the trans stuff for some reason? I don't know. I need to hear more in order to fully like understand your position. But I'm assuming it's the former that is the case. If so, give people a chance. Be patient. CJ says, I have three, age between 34 and 12. It's a different experience, like a time warp. Yeah, I have zero kids. Actually, I have a brother who's 11 years younger than me. But yeah, I think, I don't know why. I think that there's this huge gap between millennials and Generation Z. In a similar way, how was a big gap between the parents who lived through World War II, and before that, who had kids after that, and then you had a generation of kids who grew up with television. And that was a very new thing, right? You had television, you had the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, all of that, and that was such a new thing, and it created a huge generational gap. And then you had a generation of parents who were traumatized from the war, from what happened, and then you had a generation who couldn't relate to that, but who were also traumatized because either because their parents' trauma or because the parents weren't present there, right? The fathers who died in the war, and kids growing up with a single mother, that's trauma there, right? And kids are growing up in this whole new culture with TV. It's hard for parents to relate to those kids. And I think that this new internet culture can be actually compared to what happened back then, even though internet is not really a new thing. It has existed since, well, at least since the 90s. I don't know. I think maybe it started in the 80s, but I think it's been commonly used at households since the 90s. But it has been a bit more than like, yeah, no, maybe something like 15 years since this proper internet culture emerged. And then you have Generation Z who just grew up with that. And it feels like a very different world for those of us who grew up before it. I think there's a huge gap. And I'm not the only one who's saying it. I have know some people in like their early 30s or late 20s or their late 30s even, who say they just can't relate to people under 25, like, at all. And yeah, I don't know. I get along with like the baby boomer generation, Gen X. Actually, Gen X a lot of the time is the generation of people I get along with the best. I love Generation X. I sometimes I think I'm a Gen X born in a millennial body a lot of the time. But Gen Z, I don't know. I can't relate to them at all. And their sense of humor is like something out of this planet. A lot of the time, it feels like they speak in a foreign language. Actually, like I have they say words I don't understand. To be honest. Joseph Wagner says, "Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to police anyone who's attracted to trans people. I just don't want to be pressured to be open to the idea of someone. I want to be with that whole person." Yeah, I mean, I can see your point. I can definitely see your point there. Steven says, "Can't tell I'm getting older, but I wish less young people would use TikTok." I think TikTok is one of those worst platforms, actually. And it's not just how indoctrinating TikTok is when it comes to ideologies, right? And I think there's something there. Like, TikTok is a Chinese app, and if you compare the sort of content that is being promoted in the West on the TikTok, it's meant to dumb you down, right? But what is popular on TikTok in China is stuff like science. They want to create smart generation, but they want to dumb down people in the West. Well, I wonder why. Really, I have zero idea why that could possibly be, right? But another problem with TikTok is I think it really, really ruined people's attention span, to be honest. And it's actually a conversation I had earlier today. Like, my attention span is around 10 minutes. That's what I said. Or like, if I'm watching a video on YouTube or I'm reading a book, I will give someone a 10-minute to get me hooked on either reading something or watching something. That's my attention span. And I think, this whole like apps like TikTok, but also Shorts and this swiping culture, I don't know how it's possible for someone to have a 3-second attention span. Like, okay, nothing happens in 3 seconds. I'm not entertained. Next. And I'm kind of concerned when this generation of kids who were born in the last 5 years or so, when they enter universities, and they have so much reading material to do. Well, good luck with that. Um, Wasp says, I so agree with you about the conservative media, the debate conflict as much as anyone. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And, I really just stopped buying into that. I no longer think we should be like, oh, doing those videos like, oh, reacting to crazy TikToker, reacting to crazy trans activist, and all of that. Ignore it, really, really. We don't need this type of content. And also, if you notice, this is the type of content that gets most views when it comes to this trans subject. And I think trans is a very central to the whole culture war that is happening. It's all about trans and race. Was like the two main components of that, really. And it's such a distraction, because there are more important things going on than that. It ignores stuff like economy, all the conflicts in the world that are actually happening. But no, instead, let's divide people by this, whole topic of trans and race. So yeah, I think people really should stop making those reactions videos to that. And I think I might have made 2 shorts like that in the past, and I decided to, you know what, I'm not going to do more than that because, yeah, no, I just stopped giving that attention, to be honest. Ondikla says, do you know male detransitioners who aren't right wingers? Yeah, actually, quite a lot. I think a lot of male detransitioners, at least the gay ones, and I know a lot of gay male detransitioners, tends to be quite liberal, but more conservative on the subject of medical transitioning and puberty blockers and all of that, but otherwise tends to be quite liberal in other ways. I'm not sure how it is with detransitioned women. I have seen more conservative detransitioned women than men, actually. But there are exceptions, and I haven't met enough detransitioned women to actually make that sort of assessment. CJ says, I count you as one of the reasonable voices. Thank you so much. Wasp says, oh, Bramley, that's so sad. Women are individuals, and lots of them are probably having the same day you are. Try talking to some of the quiet ones who aren't even looking. Yeah, was that advice to the person who posted a comment on why they lost respect for people or gave up on people? Yeah, I think that's a good advice, but I think that sort of change doesn't really happen overnight. Do you think Shapeshifter is right winger? Me personally, I don't think Shapeshifter is a right winger. Yeah, to be honest. But then again, I think it's kind of strange to put people into boxes like left wing or right wing. What I've noticed is that people have a mix of opinions. You know, it's rare to meet someone who is just like 100% left winger or 100% right winger. I think it's very common to meet people who are like perhaps 60% right wing, 40% left wing, or vice versa, or 70% right wing and 30% left wing. I think that's actually most common. Most people are really a mix of both, but I don't think it's helpful to just divide it into categories like that. Like, of course, now I mean there is such a thing as the left wing and the right wing, but I think it's easy to put that into boxes when it comes to ideologies. But I think people are more than ideologies. People are really a mix of ideas coming from different ideologies. Like, I don't know. Like I don't consider myself a socialist by any means, but there are like some certain ideas of socialists may hold that I can agree with. Stephen says it is difficult to have reasonable conversation on this topic. I've tried talking to a few people in person, and they get automatically defensive or offensive while wanting me to explain my thinking. Yeah, I think communication in general is really difficult, especially in a highly polarized society that we are living in. Um, like, how do you reach across the aisle, right? When the other person already made their mind about you, they have a certain ideas about you, and I've actually met people who don't really believe in this area of gray in politics. We just think like, no, all conservatives are evil, or yeah, or even some people who think like all liberals are evil. Or but it's even worse when there are people who think like all liberals are stupid, they're all libtards, and then you have some people who think that all conservatives are kind of dumb, they're uneducated. And I have met intelligent people of both sides, and I have met some really insane and dumb people on both sides. But I think it's the worst thing you can do is to assume that your political opponent, or at least like someone who politically disagrees with you, is dumber with you because they don't agree with you. And it's easy to think that because you think yourself, well, I'm the smart one. I am smart. I must be right about this. If someone disagrees with me, they must be stupid. And there's really easy to break that illusion when you are first being met by someone who disagrees with you, who's very logical, who makes really reasonable arguments, and that might get you like that, and you're like, oh, well, how do I respond to that? Um, Actually, yeah, I talked to some people on the left and the right who are really good at that. So, and that completely breaks that illusion that you build for yourself, that the other side is just dumb. Stephen says, "Well done on 5K, and thank you for taking the time to do this live chat." Thank you, Max, and no problem. I like doing those live chats, even though I'm not doing them very often. Oh, by the way, a question to all of you: would you like me to rewatch my first video from last year, the one where I first talked about my detransitioning? Because I could do a whole video where I'm just rewatching that and seeing whether some of my takes have changed, and just looking back at that. If you're interested in that, I would gladly do that sort of video as a 1 year anniversary. Joseph says, "Oh yeah, I reject cis because the biological differences between trans and cis aren't respected. I don't even see men and women as umbrella terms." Mm. You know, I think that trans people and non-trans people, if anything, that would be the best thing, to make some sort of agreement that, you know what, we will call you by your preferred pronouns if you were not call us cis. Let's have this mutual respect. I think that's a good place to start, really. Vasp says, Alexander, I mean not to confuse trans issues with Marxist issues, because I've seen Marxists dressing like the opposite sex acting outrageous, but I don't think they're really trans, just sitting warfare. Could be, but then again, there's definitely like Marxist element to at least when it comes to the oppressor class, the way you see it. But honestly, the way I see Marx, I don't think Marx himself would actually be a big fan of identity politics. Um, mostly because he would see it as a way to divide the working class. And there's a lot of things I disagree with Marx about, really. Like, when I read the Communist Manifesto, or Das Kapital, or The Capital in English, I was a lot of the time I'm thinking, oh, there's so much here I disagree with, right? But the way I see Marx, like, he wouldn't be a big fan of identity politics. And that is definitely something I could respect Marx for. But then again, you never know. You never know. It's sort of like saying, Martin Luther King wouldn't be a fan of like today's race politics, because of what he said, that people, should be valued by their merit, not by their race. But would he agree with Black Lives Matter today or not? It's all very speculative. We can't really know because he's not alive today. We can speculate that, but we can't really know for certain. Gay adult human male says, "Hi, just joining. Hello." Oh, Tranada instead of Canada. Whole thing is blackface and cosplay. Yeah. CJ said Justin Trudeau did blackface many times. So many he admitted he doesn't remember. Wow. Ginger Blaze says, performing any medical surgical procedures which result in irreversible damage to physically functional healthy bodies goes against the medical principle to do no harm. Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to this really new area of medicine that is transitioning, medical transitioning, is it possible to do it without doing any harm, really? Let's say there is, let's imagine two possible worlds, world A and world B. On world A, no one is allowed to transition. On world B, every kid who reaches 11, who identifies as the opposite sex, gets access to puberty blockers. And you could say that on both of these worlds, some harm is being done, right? Like, no matter what you choose. Well, do you do harm by active measures, or do you do harm by doing nothing? And it's not that different from the trolley problem, really. It's about the number of casualty, or the intensity of the harm that is being done. And then when that happens, when we're talking about the puberty blockers from this harm perspective, we are adopting a very utilitarian type of thinking. And then we have to choose between the better of two evils, really. So is the utilitarian thinking there the best way to proceed? I think not. I think we should perhaps abandon that. Just look at it from the perspective of, well, do we allow kids to make any other lasting changes to their bodies? Do we allow 11-year-old kids to smoke cigarettes? Do we allow them to get a tattoo or something like that? Well, no. So should we make an exception in that case? That is a good question, really. So, I think we should move away from this utilitarian approach to the use of puberty blockers and rather look at it from this way, that we shouldn't allow kids or people with underdeveloped brains to make lasting choices like that. And like I said, perhaps it's debatable in extreme cases, but otherwise, no. Martin says, when is your birthday? What is your sign? My birthday is in February. I turned 31 just 2 months ago. I'm an Aquarius, although I'm not a big fan of astrology, really. I don't believe in astrology, to be honest. I know I've met some people who do, and it's it's not my thing. It's not really my thing. Fabio says you look 26 ish, perhaps. I don't, a lot of the time I don't really think about how old I actually look. Actually, it's very rare for me to think about how I look, to be honest. And I think I became more aware of that when I started doing those videos, because that's when I actually see myself on the camera. And I think this whole last year is the most I have ever stared at my face. And at first, it was super, super weird because I wasn't used to it. Now I'm fairly used to it. I'm more comfortable with that. But I remember the first time just editing the video and just looking at myself all the time. I was worried, like, oh my god, am I becoming a narcissist or something? Spending half my day looking at myself, you know. But I don't like. I was never really concerned with looks. I was never really concerned with how I look, how other people look. I was like cared about the content of character of people, really. Um, Garnet Checker says people tell me I look 40 when I'm 21. Oh, well, I can't really tell how you look, so I'm not going to comment on that. Mm. Gingerblaze says it is akin to performing a hardware fix for a software problem. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in a lot of cases, absolutely. I think, and there are some people who say that my goal is to like restrict transitions or something like that. And I don't think that is my goal. I don't think that is something I want to do. I just want to have a reasonable and responsible approach to this topic. Like, I don't want to restrict access to transition for adults who want to transition and who are actually have been feeling that for a long time, and the dysphoria didn't go away. Yeah, no, I don't want to restrict that. But what I think, there are like some reasonable, restrictions. Like, there are some people who say that my goal is to restrict that because I don't want hormones and puberty blockers to be available to everyone just like that because you say so. The difference is it's sort of like wanting to legalize weed and someone saying, I think meth should be available in every grocery store, just on the shelves there for everyone to grab. And therefore, I would say, for my take on hormones and the use of hormones, it's still very liberal. It's just I want to have some responsibility there, not just to give it away to everyone like that, because that will just do a lot of harm. Just like meth being accessible on the store shelves would do a lot of harm, right? And then you might be thinking, well, this is people here making their own decisions, right? But, well, you're partially guilty of that as well if they ruin their own life, if you're shoving it right in front of their eyes. Like, I don't think it should be that easily available. And I don't like, my position is not extreme there for wanting to have some rules around that. I think it's actually for a 12, 13-year-old to just grab hormones just like that and use them without talking to a psychologist. I think that's the extreme view, really. M. Jones says, as a lesbian, I agree with everything you said. Trans ideology is making feminine boys think they should be girls, and masculine girls think they should be boys. It hits gay kids hard. Yeah. M. Jones also says, go Gen X, our music rocked. Yeah, I definitely think Gen X made the best music, really. Although I don't know, I like a lot of boomer music, to be honest. I love stuff like Led Zeppelin. Although No, weren't they actually the silent generation, the generation before boomers? Or maybe not. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones are definitely that, but a lot of what we think of Gen X music was actually made by boomers. And yeah, also like the Doors and the Who, and one of my all-time favorite bands, Pink Floyd. A lot of it's considered dad rock, but honestly, I absolutely love Pink Floyd. Could be listening to Pink Floyd every day, alongside and, a band I can recommend to anyone who likes Pink Floyd. Check out Porcupine Tree, their early albums from the 90s. Some of that stuff is very Pink Floyd-ish. It's like progressive rock and sometimes a little bit psychedelic. Their first album was very psychedelic. Um, Arno Narki says, "Do you have a regular job?" I haven't actually had a job since October. I was working as a carer for a person in a wheelchair, and I have had a hard time getting a new job after that. Actually, the person I was working with moved to a different city, so I can no longer be the carer. I'm trying to find a new job at the moment, and it's been a job hunt that's been going for quite a while now. But I'm doing a lot of like one-time gigs, either like speeches I'm getting paid for, or editing videos for someone, helping people with their content, or translating stuff. Things like documents, text, but even videos. I actually translated a whole film, and it is a documentary about the transition called No Way Back. So keep myself afloat just by doing stuff like that, and like other source of incomes. And it's very stressful because your how much you make in a month is very unstable. But at the same time, I can work from home, and I think it's very comfortable. But at the same time, I absolutely love working with people with disabilities and people with cerebral palsy. I have a lot of experience with that. Every single summer, I work at a summer camp for young adults and older adults with cerebral palsy. And I'm probably gonna do it this summer as well. It's like a standard gig right now, and that's why I will be gone from YouTube at the time because it's work from Monday to Sunday, like from 8 o'clock till midnight for 3 weeks ish. So that's a pretty hard and tiresome work, really. But I always feel so energized after that. When I come home, I don't know what to do with myself because I'm used to the fact that I'm working from 8 to midnight, and then you come home and you're thinking, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, this is so weird. But then after a few days, you just settle in. Um, Joe Spring says, please hit the like button if you haven't. It really will help Alexander's channel grow. Thank you a lot. I don't really like to say this. I don't want to like start or end my every video with like click like and subscribe, share this video. I think it sounds really fake, you know. But a lot of the time, I think it will definitely help my channel grow, and I think I could reach more people if a lot of you like those videos and comments. It definitely stimulates the algorithm. Oh yeah, and one more thing I was supposed to say. A lot of the time, I'm actually thinking whether the fact that I make this type of content has anything to do with how hard it has become for me to find a regular job recently, especially when I also went public about it with like my name. It's like out here. I've been in the Norwegian media, and I don't want to play the victim here. I'm like, oh, no one will hire me because I am openly talking about this political stuff. Here I am having this non-mainstream opinions and all of that. I'm not gonna play this victim and say, oh, that's why nobody wants to hire me. But I mean, could it be the case? Yeah, it's a possibility for sure. Ginger Blaze says children raised in institutional childcare facilities since infants display many trauma-based behaviors. We have known this since the 70s, but continue to push every parent into the workforce. Yeah, let me read that one more time. Yeah, this is really, really not surprising. Absolutely. Stephen Ashford says, I don't consider a video long. It's on until it's over an hour. Swipe culture is not my thing. Yeah, me too. Me too. Like if it's in like a 1 hour long video, I think I consider that long. But then again, I don't think my attention span or your attention span is today's standard. To be honest, it becomes more and more rare to happen. Ginger Blaze also says that kind of content gets the most views because that's what gets promoted. Yeah. I mean, an algorithm also has a lot to do with that, right? The algorithm there is not innocent. Like, and I think it's been discovered that what is the role of algorithm is that to keep people on the platform, right? And well, people came to realization that it's not content like video, like the videos of cats videos or like funny videos, stuff like that. That's not what keeps most attention. Really, people, those big platforms realize that the best way to keep people attention, to keep them on the platform, is to go political and create conflict. It's all designed, it's all manufactured, actually. And yeah, that's not a surprise that all those crazy voices are being amplified like that. Yeah, and Ginger Blaze continue here, especially reaction videos hosted by trans-identified people. It's a uni party. Yeah. Zoomer Clock says, hi, hello, hi. What are your thoughts on Chloe Cole? I have absolutely nothing against Chloe Cole. I admire Chloe Cole for her honesty. And Chloe was actually one of the people who helped me open up about my own detransition. I think the first time I've seen her, it was on Jordan Peterson's podcast. He did an episode with Chloe Cole. And that, yeah, I think people seeing Chloe Cole on Jordan Peterson's and seeing Shapeshifter on Blair White's podcast helped me a lot to come to terms with who I am, what I've done, talk about it openly. And if it wasn't for those people, I probably wouldn't open up about it on YouTube either. So yeah, I'm really, really, really grateful to those people. Even though I never had a personal conversation with Chloe Cole, so I don't really know her as a person other than that. Stephanie Botch says, "Hey, you are brilliant. I love your channel. Please keep making your videos." Yeah, I will keep making the videos, and like I said at the beginning of this live chat, I will never run out of ideas for new videos because I have idea for enough videos to last, I don't know, 5 years or something like that. And they're always coming new ideas, and it's sometimes really hard to just pick up a video I want to do next, because I will have write down like those 50 of those ideas and thinking, oh, which one should I do now? Which one should I do now? And I like to balance things out, like I try to like sometimes do videos on the trans and detrans topic. Another times I'm trying to do a video on some social issues or something happening in the world of politics. Other times I'm trying to do videos on something philosophical. And yeah, there will be mostly like those three areas are the type of videos I'll be focusing on. That's what you can expect on my channel. Sometimes I'm doing like those short comedy skits as well. They tend to get a lot of dislikes compared to my other videos. Usually I'll have like 3% dislikes, but on those videos I get like 20% dislikes, but a lot of very positive comments and people who really enjoy that. So I think it's very divisive when I'm doing that, but I really enjoy doing those videos, and I have a lot of ideas for like short, funny skits. Zoomer Clock also says, looking forward to your Substack. Yes. Oh, I almost forgot. I think it's getting a little dark here. I think I don't think I will be making a new video this coming week. I'll take a little break from YouTube, but you can expect an article from me. I don't know if I should tell you what the article will be about, or if it should be a surprise. Yeah, I guess I can say it. I'll be writing an article on why pornography on the internet should be age restricted. So you can expect that article at some point this week. I will post it here on YouTube in the community tab, so you can find it when I'm done with it. And I'll also post it on my Twitter, or X, how it's called now. I'm still calling it Twitter. Wasp says, there you go, especially in America right now, the uni part is confusing things so bad. I wish I could vote for someone who represents actual people. Yeah, like American politics are so toxic. Like we have 9 parties here in Norway. I don't think any of those parties represent my views and what I stand for. And I don't know how a system with just 2 parties is supposed to absolutely represent someone's views. It's like this idea that there are only A people and B people. I think that's such a simplification of complexity of human experience. And both Democrats and Republicans are corrupted as hell. Like I wouldn't trust any of them, to be honest. Like what we need is the voice of the people, not the voice of corrupted politicians who only want to use people to achieve their own means. What he says, I feel that it is appropriate for a trans woman to use a woman bathroom if they are actually transgender and actually look like a woman and put effort in. What are your thoughts on this? So I'm not like hardcore against trans women using women's bathroom. I just think that it leaves an opening for people who want to do bad, like they would just see it as an excuse to for their predatory behavior. And those people are a smaller minority, because like most trans women, most trans men mean no harm. They just want to go about their day, right? I mean, it's even for biological women, it's more likely to use bathrooms, restrooms for social means, to talk to. But trans women usually don't do that. They are more likely to do it the male way. Go in there, do their business, go out. Although I don't know, I can't really talk for everyone there, but that is at least what I was doing back then. And there was a time when I was in my early stage of my detransition, and I was still being perceived as female by society at large. And I went to a male restroom, and well, let's say I had a really, really bad experience. I was harassed her in a sexual way. So I think it's dangerous for trans women to use male restrooms. Let me tell you that it's a really bad idea. Like, we worry about the safety of biological women a lot for that reason, and for right reasons, I think. But I think we also need to take safety of trans women into consideration um, as well, and that's why I'm in favor of alternative bathrooms. And but also, I think women should have a choice there. Do I go to female only bathroom, or do I go to gender neutral bathroom? And then it's up to you, and everyone can choose. Everyone's happy. I just think that's the best option there, and that's the best solution, really. Mm. Bramley Adams says, "Are you ever recognized in LGBT plus spaces, and do you get negative pushback?" Um, I have some friends who are LGBT. I have some friends who are gay. I have some friends who are lesbian. I have some friends who are trans, and I even have one friend who's a trans activist. I actually had him on my channel back in October. We had a talk. I was also on their podcast. So, like, in general, mostly I have received a very positive feedback from trans people I know personally. I never felt attacked for being detrans, or even for having the opinions I have. We might disagree on some things, but I never like felt attacked or cancelled by them or anything like that. There are some voices online that were, let's say, less friendly, but there's not really a minority there. I got one message that was borderline threat, really, but that was a small minority compared to mostly positive. So I never really experienced like I was pushed away from LGBT spaces for being detrans, for talking openly about it. Um, but then again, I don't really consider myself as a part of LGBT community. I have some friends who are that, but that is purely accidental. I don't pick friends based on things like, oh, are they trans, are they are they straight, are they gay, are they bi, whatever. I like people for being the individuals they are, and I never been part of any community really. I don't like groups. I don't like group thinking. I like individuals in general. Um, Ginger Boy says discriminating based on how well someone can pass as if or an appearance is a terrible idea. History demonstrates what a terrible idea that is, and that is actually in response to what is comment that transgender women who are passing should be allowed to use bathrooms. And here we have a bit of conflicting ideas in the comment sections. I think there's some merits to both of them, really. I don't think what Watty said here is completely wrong. Wow, my hair looks kind of dark blue in this light. Um, I'm turning a non-binary trans activist TikToker with this blue hair on my head right now. But I also think Ginger Blaze is bringing us something very important here. Like, shouldn't we actually have this sort of discrimination based on looks? Oh, you look good as a trans woman, you appear female, so you're allowed to use the space. But you know what? You're not passing, even though you're trying really hard, you're doing your best. But no, go away. I also think this is the sort of thinking that pushes people to getting those facial feminization surgeries, right? So, very, very good point, Ginger Blaze. Ondikla says, in Europe, the culture war divide is mostly pro EU versus pro Putin. I don't think there's a middle ground. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I'd say it's much easier to find a middle ground when it comes to the trans topic than when it comes to Russia and Putin. It's very hard to find a middle ground there. But isn't that the case when it comes to like actual war, actual conflict, or all those things when it comes to disagreements relating to um, internal politics and social issues? Yeah, that's cool. But once it comes to this sort of military conflict, this sort of dictatorship, yeah, you're either for that or against that. Are you voting for Hitler or are you not? Right? I don't think everyone who voted for Hitler was a bad person. That's. I don't like this sort of thinking. I think more of us would actually end up voting for Hitler than we like to think. We like to think that, oh, I would never support that if I was alive back then. But you can never really know that. They were people just like us, and there is a book, a German book called "Guess Who's Back." Um, which is sort of a satirical book of Hitler traveling in time to our times. It's a really interesting read, and there is actually a film based on that book. And I think the film is not just as good as book. I think the book is better, but the film has some sections that have actual interactions with people, and you have people saying how they would actually, support Hitler, literally, saying a lot of like the same talking points. So it's not that hard to imagine why Hitler got to the place of power. Um, yeah, Jana just good says, "Hey, if you have something new to say, I'd watch that." I think that's like Nintendo said, whether I should do a reaction to my first video. Yeah, and Fabio also said, "Yes, that sounds interesting. Doing a fast video review. Yeah, a reflective video, which would be interesting. Yeah, I think I'll do that, especially since I have also a very different approach today than I had back then. That was my first video of this type on YouTube. I didn't necessarily know how to communicate my ideas there completely. So and it's not that I'm being less honest today than I was back then, but it's like I realize that sometimes you have to explain every little thing you mean in order how people perceive you, how it come across. And like I remember in that first video of mine, I said gender dysphoria is a mental illness. And some people, could read that like, oh, I'm calling trans people crazy. That's why I made a different video back in September where I actually explained what I mean by that. I don't think there's anything wrong with having mental illness. And I think it's the fact that we're saying it's not a mental illness is something that puts a lot of stigma on mental illness. Instead, I think we should destigmatize it and talk openly about it. There's nothing wrong with having a mental illness, And actually, I think I will do another video on mental health and mental illness, depression, all of that. Like I said, it's very hard to pick a topic because there's so many videos I want to do. M. Jones says, yes, a rewatch would be interesting. Do you feel happier within yourself a year later? You look more comfortable, at least in front of the camera. Yeah, I'm definitely much more comfortable. Back then, it was still a new thing for me. I was very anxious doing that in front of the camera, and I was talking about something very personal. It felt a bit like a talk with my therapist, but I was doing it in front of camera. How could I possibly be comfortable, right? But yeah, it's changed. It's changed, and I am really comfortable talking to a camera now. I'm also comfortable talking in front of people as well, and that is not something that comes naturally for me, but it's just a skill I developed. Oh yeah, you also ask if I am happier. Um, I think the last 2 years of my life in general has been some of the best years of my life, and that just happened after I crawled out of that hole. It's it was really really bad for many years. I think since like 2018 is where really things went to hell. Where I because I haven't dealt with everything that was going on. I just kept it hidden under the lid, and eventually it started to boil over, and I just couldn't take it, and it was really bad. And then in 2021, first year ago, I also became clean. I stopped doing drugs, and at that point, it got my mental health got even worse because I got rid of this one thing that was helping me cope. And then you have this problem like, how do you cope right now? And I replaced that with video games for a while. And there was a whole year where I was mostly just gaming, just playing video games because I needed something to cope. I needed something to keep my attention out of doing opioids and antipsychotics. But I developed a much more healthier relationship with that right now. Now I'm treating playing video games sort of like, yeah, watching a good film once in a while, reading a good book. It's a fun way to relax, but I don't use it as a way to cope or a way to escape unless I had a really, really bad day or a bad week. Then, yeah, I might do that. Um, T2 says it seems that many who are captured by trans issues are mostly liberal, intelligent thinkers, regardless of their chosen platforms to highlight the harms of medicalization. You know, at the time when you know, should I turn on the light? I think I should. I'll be right back. I don't know if that helps. The lights of my place are very, very dim, so it doesn't really help much. Lights are so dim here. That's why on most videos where I'm having someone over on my channel, we're doing those discussions. A lot of those people are like in different time zones, so I'm recording in the evening, and it's always dark in my place. It's always so light at their place, and there's big, big contrast there. But anyway, where was I? Yeah, when I first started developing those feelings of gender dysphoria, stuff like that, I wasn't liberal at all. Let me tell you, I was as a teenager, I was pretty damn conservative actually, and it still happens to me. I was actually much more conservative than I am today. I would say I became more liberal in the last 10 years than I ever was. I don't necessarily like consider myself a liberal or conservative for that matter. I'm like I'm doing my own thing, to be honest. Like I don't really feel like joining cults, you know. Hmm. Zoomer Clock says there's a lots of medical malpractice transgender. Yeah, yeah, and like I said earlier here on the live chat, those surgical complications are happening not just to detransitioners, but to trans people as well. And I think it's very important to acknowledge that. Lola Twinkle says, hi Lola, how are you? T2 says, well, congrats on the 5K. You have a lot of experience to bring to the conversation, and that's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Tako Kamari says, browsing the detrans subreddit, there seems to be an overweight of detrans women, regret and seeking support. Why could this be? Well, there are mm, a lot of reasons why we should be hypothesizing about that. Um, could it be because there has been an overflow of young females transitioning? Could that be the reason? And I think, well, when transitioning happens as a result of ideology or social contagion, I think the chances of someone detransitioning is much higher than if someone does that because they genuinely feel gender dysphoria. I think those people are less likely to detransition. But that can happen too. I'm not saying that can't happen, but the likelihood of that is lower. But if you're transitioning because it's a hip thing, even though I really don't know how often is this happening. I don't think it's the majority of people who transition because of social contagion, but I do think it's happening because all ideas and ideologies are socially contagious. Conservatism is socially contagious. Liberalism is socially contagious. So is socialism, communism, fascism, so is anarchism, whatever, right? All ideas are socially contagious. That's how people work. So I think it's weird to deny that gender ideology isn't or is socially contagious. Like that's obvious, right? And some people will be attracted to that idea. Like yeah, it's hip, and especially I think young people can be very vulnerable there. Um, but if that's the reason someone transitions, it's very likely that they will detransition. And most people who were affected by that wave of that ideology were young females. And I think it's also aligned with what we are seeing, the development of people under 25, where there are more and more males who are becoming conservative and more females who are liberal. There's this huge split there. So it makes sense that more young girls would be attracted to the idea of trans. And I think that's the reason why we're seeing a lot of female detransitioners. That's my theory, at least. Um, T2 says, "Oh, you're not a narcissist, mate. Not in the slightest." Thank you. I hope I'm not. I really hope I'm not. Ginger Blaze says, "Alex, going through one's natural natal sex puberty is not an illness. It is a necessary developmental process which, if blocked, imposes a medically induced DSD condition upon a child." Um, Well, I don't think I ever said that going through natural natal puberty is an illness. Um, I consider gender dysphoria to be a mental illness. That is not to say that being trans means being mentally ill, but the gender dysphoria is a mental illness. And if we acknowledge that, we can treat people in a kindly way. We really need empathy for people struggling with anything. And the reason I define mental illness, gender dysphoria as mental illness is for that simple reason. What is a mental illness? It is abnormal mental state that causes one's suffering or makes it harder or impossible for them to function in society. Um, and I think gender dysphoria can definitely do that to a person. So there is, for that reason, yeah, I define it as mental illness. Zoomer Clock says, "I look young for my age and I'm 21." Um, I think a lot of people, when they are young and they look younger, they see it as a negative thing. But I've noticed that a lot of older people would love to look younger, or they are happy when they actually look young. And I don't know, there are also some people who have looked young for a very long time, and there's just this big drop there, and they aged 20 years in a matter of 3 years. Um, Zoomer Clock, what are your thoughts on someone like Ellen Page? Well, I can't really know what is happening in Page's head. Um, so I'm not a lot of the time. I'm not sure which name I should use because I'm used to Ellen, like Ellen Page. That's the actress I'm used to. So, but yeah, let's say Elliot Page. I don't think Elliot Page is in the same category as someone like, let's say, Dylan Mulvaney, who I think obviously is doing it for attention. I have my doubts whether Dylan is actually trans. Um, I think Elliot is more genuine, but also came out as a lesbian first, right? Before coming out as trans. So I'm thinking there's definitely been some element of confusion. And the thing is, was that just a state of confusion when he came out as lesbian and then arrived at a place where he was happy as a trans man? Could be the case, or could be also the case that he's still on his own journey to discover himself, and this is part of his journey. If so, I made some irreversible changes to his body, right? And only time will tell. But no, I think it's a genuine person, and I remember this picture of Paige being out on the internet, and was something like, "This is what trans joy looks like," right? And this was a picture taken like really out of context, and like where Elliot Page didn't really look good on that picture, and like, oh look, this person is not happy with their transition, and I think that's just taking a picture out of context and putting some meaning behind it that is not there. And there are some people online who commented on that. One of the was Marcus. He's a trans man, and I like Marcus. I watch his content sometimes and like him, but I think him jumping on that train was wrong, really. Um, I'm old as dust. She just says, well, we all will be one day. Gay adult human male says, no child has ever been born in the wrong body. Yes, absolutely. Lesbians exist. Yes, absolutely. No lesbian has a penis. Yeah, I would say so. Oh, I don't know. Do I consider trans women attracted to women lesbians? Yeah, you know what? I can respect that as long as they don't force others to see that way. As long as they don't force themselves into spaces. Yeah, I have no issues in that. Um, I am same sex attracted, not same gender attracted. Yeah, I respect that. Gender is regressive. Reification of stereotypes. I'm don't necessarily agree with that last statement. It can be if it's used in that way, but the way I see gender, I just see it in a way that what mind is to brain. It's just a phenomenal experience of being alive. That's why I think of gender as not a feeling, but as an experience. It is a lived experience. Your lived experience as a man, your lived experience as a woman, and then you have a different experience, lived experience if you're experiencing gender dysphoria. But yeah, like that's how far I'm willing to go with that. That's why I acknowledge gender, because I think that I'm a property dualist. I think the phenomenal aspects of our consciousness are not the same as physical ones, but I think that they're supervenient on the physical. Like, I think, well, if your brain dies, well, your mind is not there either, right? But the physical and chemical structure of my brain does not feel the same, or is not the same as my own personal experience of being me. And that's how I view gender. Like, how do you experience yourself as a male or as a female? So I make that separation between sex and gender, but I personally think it's reasonable, but it's when you reduce gender to stereotypes that's when it becomes an issue, I'd say. But I don't think that just having this concept of gender is necessarily enforcing stereotypes in and of itself. Steven says, I have to head off now, but all the best, everyone, and have a good day, so nights, wherever you all are. Thank you, Steven. Have a good day or night, whatever it is where you are, and see you later. Zoom o'clock. There are lots of trans influencers still promoting vaginoplasty on YouTube and other social media apps. Yeah, and I think they're always will, and I'm not standing for not allowing them to do that, because I believe in freedom of speech. So if someone wants to talk positively about that, yeah, let them. But then again, well, I think that it can have negative influence on kids. And I think if you want to talk about how good your experience with surgery was, sure, go ahead. But I have a specific video in mind of this person who's showing like a piece of a banana, and I don't remember the whole video, but it was like they're explaining with the banana what the surgery looks like, and it's like promoting it as this magical, beautiful thing that will make your life better. Yeah, no, I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to stop those people from using social media, because that will be cancel culture, right? So I don't think we should be doing that, to be honest. But instead, fight back with arguments, I say. Laurie Washburn says Dead Rock. It's not a band, Dead Rock, or do you mean that rock is dead as a genre? I think I think the modern rock genre is very different from what it used to be. A lot of the time, I don't enjoy a lot of new music. Outside of the mainstream, there's a good stuff you can find, and I listen to a lot of music from different countries, like Serbia, Finland, Japan. There are even some really, really good African metal bands. South America, both Brazil and Argentina, has a lot of good rock and metal bands. If you like old music from 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, discovering music from that time from different countries can be sort of like discovering the good old music all over again. So I always like doing that. Gay adult human male says pronouns master and daddy. Oh, on my Twitter bio, it says that my pronouns are His Majesty. I just left it like that. It's just His Majesty. Wasp says, yes, gay adult human male. In my generation, we told people not to worry if you don't conform with stereotype, just be yourself. Now it seems like if someone doesn't conform, they're told to switch. Yeah, kind of. Not always. I think there are still gender non-conforming people who are not trans, right? And I think we should promote that, really. Just not conforming to gender stereotypes without being trans. I think people like that should be more visible. Say to show young people, hey, you know what, it's possible. Because if there's a young person out there who feels like they are gender non-conforming and that they feel like they should transition, I think gender non-conforming people could be really, really good role models to young people and kids who feel like they don't fit into standard gender roles. Yana the Judas Girl says, oh wow, translated a whole film. That's cool. Can relate to that. I translated a film a while back as well, and I'm starting for becoming a translator right now. No, I don't have like an official paper for that. I started on Fiverr, actually. I did my first translation there I think back like 4 years ago. So I did some work there, and then some other places. So yeah, I'm always open to doing more translations, but I never officially did any sort of like education in that direction. But I speak three languages fluently and bright, and that always helps with translations. You really don't need more than that. Generally, I think we should be moving in a direction where universities shouldn't have monopoly on education, or colleges shouldn't have monopoly on higher education. I think you should just provide a proof that you are qualified, that you have enough skill or knowledge about something in order to get to a certain position, instead of going through a process of, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years of education, taking student loans and all of that. I just think that would be so much better, especially when we are living in a digital society where access to all sorts of knowledge and learning is right in front of you. It's staring in your face. It's just for you to grab it, and you can learn so much. All you need really is just curiosity and will to learn. But it seems like society is still like lagging behind and holding on to that old social structure of universities. But I really hope that sort of monopoly will die. Especially when I think that um, universities and colleges can be quite elitist. Um, where was I here with the comments? Gay adult human male says differences in sexual development. Klinefelter's XXY. I hope the person who mentioned it will educate us more. Yeah. There aren't many people with XXY chromosomes, right? But it happens, and yeah, I don't really think of intersex people as the third sex. I think, but then again, I also encounter some people who think of intersex conditions as being disabled, and I think that's wrong on so many levels. I don't think you are disabled. Anyway, if you're intersex, it's like saying that having red hair is a disability, unless, well, if it's makes you infertile. I suppose it is kind of a disability. And actually, a lot of intersex people are infertile. But a very common type of intersex condition is actually androgen insensitivity syndrome. That's the most common intersex condition in males. And those males have regular XY chromosomes. But during the natal stage of their development, they something went wrong, and their body is like insensitive to the testosterone they are producing. They don't actually have lower testosterone levels. Their bodies are just not registering that, or they're converting that to estrogen. So there are different degrees of androgen insensitivity syndrome. So someone with complete androgen insensitivity syndrome will have fully developed female body, but they have XY chromosomes, and of course, they don't have ovaries. But that's the main change, right? And then if you have this strict sort of thinking that, well, a woman is only someone with XX chromosomes, and that if you have a kid and your whole life thought of them as your daughter, and then when they're 15 you find out that they have XY chromosomes, will you stop considering them your daughter? And I think most people would still think of them as their daughter, really. So yeah, I think there are like exceptions to this thing that, oh, women have to have XX chromosomes, really. um or very mild case of androgen insensitivity syndrome. A lot of men who have it don't even know they have it. They might some of the symptoms of that include less body hair, but it's also very common for males who don't have that syndrome to have very little body hair, right? So you never know, really. Most people who have mild androgen insensitivity syndrome, though, are infertile, and that's the main difference there. Takaoka Ari says, I was given hormones and puberty blocks by a private practitioner in Norway. I don't regret anything, but I am angry because it was so easy and he had limited knowledge about this treatment. A question out of curiosity. Did that doctor happen to be Espen Ester? Like, the whole name is Espen Ester Pirelli Benestad. That is actually the doctor who I got hormones from in Norway, and that is the doctor who sent me to Thailand for the surgery after just 3 appointments. I really is beloved in the trans community because it's so easy to get treatment from him. But honestly, I found him very unprofessional. I think it's a very, very unprofessional person, and I actually did a video that was posted by Norway's like largest media, where he explains why there are like 6 genders or anything like that, and I think I will also do a video at some point where I want to debunk that, but I'll have to translate it to from Norwegian to English. So I do English subtitles on that. It shouldn't be too difficult. I have a lot of experience with that already. So, Trans Widow asks, "Do you play the piano in the background?" Yeah, a little bit, but I'm not as good at piano as I am at guitar. Actually, yeah, guitar and bass is where I'm playing the most. But I can play simple melodies in piano. I find it hard to use both of my hands on piano. Mostly just use it as a synth background on some of my songs. CJ says, props to Jordan Peterson, a sane voice of reason from Canada. Thanks for mentioning him. He's lost his psychology license over these subjects. Yes, I am aware of that, and I think it's really, really tragic. I really don't like what is going on there. Do I always agree with Jordan on everything? No, absolutely not. I am my own individual, but I have respect for Jordan Peterson. I think he's a reasonable voice, and I think he's also a really, really good model when it comes to masculinity for men, compared to men like Andrew Tate, who I think are absolute clowns. I don't think they're good role models for young males at all. But I like Jordan Peterson's approach to masculinity, really. Joseph says, "Thank you for putting in all this time, Alex." Yeah, no problem. Actually, my God, it's been 2 hours and 41 minutes here, or yeah, almost 40 minutes. Wow, I've been streaming a long time. Time really flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? Takaoka Mari says, "But I was desperate and it was my only option because Norway is conservative and trans people are treated like shit." Yeah, the main hospital in Norway that is treating people with gender dysphoria, it's so bad, and that is the reason why people get desperate and they are either looking for the easy option to find doctors who will just give them hormones without any questions, and or they're buying hormones online. And I think that both approaches are dangerous, and I think that the sort of gatekeeping that Norway is doing is actually just as bad as the affirmative model, because it pushes people to look for the easy options, right? Because it's so hard to get treatment. And I think, yeah, okay, some gatekeeping is reasonable, but the way Norway has been approaching that is really stupid. They have this, or I think there have been some changes going on lately, but it's still pretty bad. They had like this really outdated view of what a woman or a man is supposed to be, and you have to conform to a stereotype in order to transition. Imagine, well, okay, you're a male to female transitioner, and that hospital does not allow you to get access to hormones because you do not conform to the 1950s stereotype of what a woman should be. Like, you should be wearing skirts, stuff like that. They also pay attention to things like, what have you played with as a kid? And this actually goes back to what I said in one of my early videos, the one I did back in September. And I even mentioned that in my newest video I posted yesterday. If you Google gender dysphoria, one of the first pictures that showed up is like 6 signs of gender dysphoria. And some of the examples there are, what is your kids playing with? Dolls or cars? What do they like to dress as? And I don't think we should be diagnosing gender dysphoria based on stuff like that. There's a lot of boys who like to play with dolls. There's a lot of girls who like to play with cars. You're not trans for that reason. And some people would say, well, okay, that's a ridiculous idea. Nobody thinks like that. But you don't have to look far, because here where I live, like the main hospital that treats trans people has this sort of approach. That's why I don't think this sort of conservative approach is much more helpful than the affirmative model, really. And it actually pushes people into the affirmative model. It helps the affirmative model because it just pushes people right there, and the affirmative model is like with their open hands. It's like, hey, here, come take these hormones and have a good time. Wasp says Jordan P comes across much angrier on Twitter. Yeah, you know what? I don't really like Jordan Peterson's tweets, to be honest. I like a lot of videos of his I see on YouTube, but yeah, no. Some of the tweets Jordan Peterson made, to me, it's just like a waste of energy. Like the tweet he did on this overweight model on the cover of some magazine, and like, why? You're an intelligent man. You should be concerning yourself with more important stuff than that. Fabi says, you have an excellent channel, always informative and thought-provoking, and great sense of humor. Also, thank you. I always appreciate your comments, and there's actually a lot of you I see here that I recognize. I recognize your name in the chats. A lot of you comment quite a lot on my videos, and it's sort of seeing your usernames is sort of like seeing familiar faces. And some of you have been with me on this journey in almost 1 year now, actually. And you're part of this, just so you know. Zoomer Clock says, you're the most friendly, down-to-earth, de-trans person ever. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Actually, a lot of people say I'm a very down-to-earth person. And a lot of people who previously considered me very friendly have stopped being my friends when they found out about some of my political opinions, which I think is so weird because we got along famously before they actually found out things about my political views. And I think it's so weird just reducing a person to politics, really. Gay adult human male says he's emotionally unstable. He comes across as medicated to me. The tearfulness, I think, is quetiapine. I hope you're not talking about me. I think you're referring to Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that, and it's sad because Jordan Peterson has a really really brilliant mind, but he has been definitely struggling with addiction, right? And but you know what? I am not judging Jordan Peterson there. Why? Because I have been in that same situation, and actually, quetiapine is one of the substances I used to take on a daily basis. Um, I don't know. I don't think quetiapine ever made me tearful. Um, it's more like it makes you a bit numb in a way, and not in the same way as antidepressives. Mm, but it's a very weird experience being on quetiapine, and you get so easily drunk when you're on quetiapine. Like you can have two beers, and it feels like you drank a whole bottle of vodka, really, and your whole body just feels so weird, sort of like oh my god, I don't even know how to exist, how to explain that. It's sort of like being half asleep for your life. And if you want to escape, that feels great, but you shouldn't be really doing that. Um, Trans Widow says, I so agree about internet porn. All porn is damaging, actually. The therapist who diagnosed my then husband told me I need to be open to watching with him. I refused flat out. He went ahead, go ops. Yeah, I absolutely think that porn is damaging on many, many different levels. And the article I'm going to write, I'm not going to be focusing on adults, but I'm going to focus specifically why porn needs to be restricted for younger people, kids, and it's just younger and younger groups who are starting watching porn at younger and younger age, and there are so many different areas that are being influenced by that. So yeah, look forward to that article in a matter of this week. I'll post it on YouTube and on Twitter. Um, Transvido says, I think a dose of reality that women don't accept men as our sister is a truth that needed to be told. Well, it's honesty, right? And Biggie says, have you ever thought about making a Discord server? You and your commenters are so pleasant. It might be a good place for people to actually get to speak openly. Um, I never thought about it, but you gave me an idea I could definitely consider. Takoka says, accepting does not mean good medical and psychological treatment is available. But I think, regardless, what your thoughts are about psychotherapy when it comes to trans stuff, it's still walking blindly in the fog. Why? Because it's such a new area to explore. And I don't think psychologists know what they're doing. Even the ones who actually want to help people cure their gender dysphoria with the use of psychotherapy. Also, the therapists who want to help people figure out if they should transition or not, and those therapists who are affirming transition. All three categories have one thing in common. They have no idea what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing when it comes to that because it's such a new field, and the theories we are creating around this subject are still new. They hypotheses, and when it comes to the field of psychology, it's really hard to provide a solid theory there because you are literally working with human consciousness, which is not easily tangible. It's not like oh, my computer is broken, I need to fix it. right? Like it's not a physical object that needs fixing, and psychology as a field is actually pretty new, at least compared to regular medicine, right? And add this trans stuff on top of that, which has been a field medicine and psychology has been concerning itself only for 60 years. And what do you get? People who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And I think there really is nothing scientific about it. Or maybe it is in the sense that they're trying to figure it out, but not in the sense that here we are speaking facts. It's just pure speculations when we are talking about what's working, what's not working. And I think it will be like that for a long time before we arrive at any conclusion there, really. Um, Takeoka says, oh no, I've already read that comment. Sorry. Bidgy says, this is Bidgy. I forgot my display name shows and not my handle. Well, yeah. I see your username is in kanji, I think. But I recognized your profile picture, so I knew it was you. So hi, Bidgy. Gingerbless says, women are not shield for trans-identified men, though. Regarding the bathroom issue, single toilet washrooms would help people with disabilities, parents with small children, nursing mothers, as well as trans. Yeah, and those bathrooms actually already exist, right? You have gender neutral bathrooms that are like disability bathrooms. Although some trans people don't want to go there because they don't consider themselves disabled. So should they actually be called disability restrooms? I don't know. That's definitely something to discuss. Zoomer Clock says, have you ever played Hogwarts Legacy? No, I haven't. It's because J.K. Rowling is a bloody turf, and I am not going to play that game. I'm not going to support her financially and her transphobic ideas. No, I'm kidding. I'm really, really not that into Harry Potter, to be honest. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't even dislike it. I think it's fine, but it's like I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest. It can be fun to watch, like if it's on the telly and I'm sitting there with my family and it's on. Like, yeah, let it play. I'll watch it. I don't think it's bad by any means. When I was a kid, I've read the first book, and I don't remember much of that book, to be honest. But I remember watching the first film after I've read the first book, and I was absolutely annoyed by how fast everything is happening, and it just jumps over huge portions of the description of what it was like for Harry to live with his foster family before he went to Hogwarts. And in the book and in the film, I think that whole sequence happens over like 10 minutes or something like that. And I thought, like, this can't be it. I think it's a trailer. It's a trailer for the film. It's not the actual film. That's what I thought when I was watching the film. So yeah, no, I think it's all right. But I don't think I'm going to play Hogwarts Legacy. Actually, usually I don't really play new games. Most of the games I play are old classics from the 90s. I love point and click games. I love like old Sierra, LucasArts games, some old survival horror like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Some old strategy games like Empire Earth and Black and White, stuff like that. When it comes to newer games, I like Yakuza and Mass Effect. And that's pretty much it, really. Takeoka asks, if you are passing look female, it makes complete sense to use female bathrooms. It's about respecting other people's boundaries. Yeah, I think it's been a common theme today to talk about the use of restrooms. Joseph says the bathroom thing, possibility matters. A woman's restroom is supposed to be a safe space away from men. That has to be the priority. Don't let affirmation take precedent over that. I don't actually think I have anything new to add on the topic of restrooms. I think I've said my bit really. Males who pass as women are still men, though, and entering spaces designated for women is not respecting their boundaries. That's what Ginger Blaze said. Joseph Wagner says, "Look, I'm gay. I would be no threat to women in the women's restroom, but I know what I look like. I'm a big, burly dude. I would make women uncomfortable. I wouldn't go in there." Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it'll be similar to like walking into a changing room with a woman. Even though I have been in one changing room with a female friend of mine, but I was with her consent, and it was no big deal. I think that happens. And can I? Yeah, I have to tell this story. This is the craziest story. This is the craziest thing that ever happened to me. I was at this bar with two mates of mine. We were there drinking and talking, and I had to go to the toilet. And the men's restroom at that bar had only urinals. And, I had the bottom surgery. I can't be standing up, right? So I was like, okay, do I go in my pants or do I go to the women's restroom? And I felt so uncomfortable. I already detransitioned at that point. I appeared male, but I still had some like feminine traits there at that point. That was back in 2016. So I was like, well, I don't know. Do I go to the women's restroom? And I said, okay, yeah, let's do it. Like walk really, really quickly in, just do my business, go out. And on my way out, this one woman walked in, and she was a bit confused, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, and she said, "Are you trans?" I said, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah." I guess I didn't know what to say, and she touched my face. She was really, really drunk, and she said, "I think you'll make a really, really handsome man." She thought I was a trans man. I was a female transitioning to male, and she ended up inserting her thumb into my eye by accident because she was really, really drunk. So I was assaulted at a women's restroom. I was the one being endangered there, but normally I would never ever do anything like that. I don't go to women's spaces, but at that point, I really, really had no choice. And it was a really, really uncomfortable experience. I was cringing like the whole night after that, and I couldn't open my eye because I had her thumb inserted in there, and then I was sitting there with my mates, and I could hardly open my eye because it really, really, really hurt. Wasp says that first video was so genuine. I loved you right away. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I have a hard time watching that first video because it was just pure raw emotion and honesty from my side that I don't think I have ever done before. Owen Dekla says passing is relative and the goalpost is moving because people nowadays are hyper aware of trans people. Yeah, and you see that much more people are talking about it, and I think this also brings attention to the topic. A lot of the time, people didn't really talk about trans women in bathrooms because there was definitely a lack of awareness, right? And unless some trans woman appeared very, very masculine, that would be a problem. And also at that time, if someone with a beard who appears male were to go to a women's restroom back then and say, "No, I'm a woman, I identify as a woman," it would be kicked out right away, right? 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, that wouldn't happen. That sort of thing is happening only right now. Because we sort of opened that door where people like that who just want to abuse that kind of slip in, right? Fortunately, actually, this hasn't been happening much in Norway. I don't think there's any registered case of someone exposing their genitals in public women's restrooms here in Norway. I don't think there's been any particular case of attempted assault or anything like that. There are cases like that in US, UK, from what I'm aware of, but so far there hasn't been a single case in Norway, actually. Mm. I well, I've been doing it for 3 hours now, and I'm sorry if I'm going to jump over some of your comments, but I have to be a bit selective now because I also want to finish this and actually cook and eat something before I go to sleep. Um, Nebula Coffee. Hi. I don't think no. I did see a comment from you before. Sorry. Um, Says, well, there is something wrong with mental illness, not as a personal or moral failing, though, because people are usually suffering due to it, but it's definitely not something that should be ashamed of. Yeah, that's sort of what I meant. I mean, well, if something is an illness, there's definitely something wrong with it. I mean, illness is sort of an issue, right? But what I mean by that, yeah, exactly, it's not something to be ashamed of. Like, there's nothing wrong with it in the sense that you are not a worse person because of that. You are not a lesser person. You still deserve the same respect. We need to treat people with mental illnesses with kindness. And honestly, I think there is such a thing as temporary mental illness, just as you can also be a temporary physically ill if you have flu or a cold. It's different from a chronic illness. I think we can also think of things like chronic mental illness, but also temporary mental illness. Isn't something like grief temporary mental illness? When your loved one dies, you're feeling that grief. I think you could be considered like temporarily mentally ill at that point, because it's an abnormal mental state that is causing suffering or makes it harder for you to function in your daily life. And a lot of people who've been stricken by grief actually experience that. They may have a problem getting up from their bed for a very long time because of that. It's a really hard thing to deal with. Gingerbread says popular internet culture and the perceiving of oneself as an avatar that can be cobbled together can cause serious disassociation. Yeah, I think it could be something with that, but I think some people also actually use that to project how they're actually feeling in their internet sphere. I don't necessarily think that's the main cause, but I think it allows for something that already existed to be revealed in a better way, and that is actually, and it's very Heideggerian, and I actually have this book by Martin Heidegger here, a question concerning technology. He defines technology, at least in a classical sense, as something revealing, the revealing of the truth that happens through technological measures. Joseph Wagner says, a lot of people say that you don't need to have gender dysphoria as justification to transition. I find that idea to be pretty offensive. Yeah, I find it hard to wrap my mind about why someone would transition and if they don't experience gender dysphoria. I mean, no, I mean, I kind of understand it, right? But I don't think it's healthy. That's what I mean by that. Um, then you're either doing it because it's this new hip thing, and then you're making permanent changes to your body because you hopped on the trend, or you're doing it as a coping mechanism for some other problem that is there. And that was the latter was the case. Well, in my case. Wasp says Dylan Mulvaney's not even taking the hormones. Their body still looks very gawky. Yeah. Do you all think Dylan is actually trans, or do you all think it's about attention? I think it's about attention. I don't think Dylan is trans in any way, shape, or form. And I think Dylan has been a narcissist. He was craving a lot of attention long before attempted transitioning. Like, I've seen some clips of Dylan from before transition, and nope. Zoomer Clock says, "Will you collab with Marcus Dib? He's Danish and you are from Norway." I would love to. I would love to. I think I'll reach out to him. We might have an interesting conversation. Actually, one YouTuber I talked to a couple of years back, I think 3 years ago, something like that. It's Brittany Simon. And it was before I was even doing YouTube videos. And I just happened to know someone who knows her. And it's for a friend of mine that I had this video call with Brittany. And Brittany Simon is doing this sort of content on YouTube when she talks about things like femininity and masculinity, as well as she has this pseudo-philosophical system of like stages of enlightenment, something like that. And I had a pretty interesting conversation with Brittany. I think we talked for almost 3 hours, actually. And I tried reaching out to her because I would love to do a video with her. She's a very interesting person to talk to. But it's hard to reach out to her, really. She didn't see my message. Undikla says, "I'm forced to claim to be bisexual or pansexual because they are the gender neutral or sex neutral terms." I'm not sure how I feel about pansexual, mostly because, the way I see it, I think there are two sexes, right? You can be attracted to, but I can accept pansexual in the sense that I'm attracted to all sorts of gender expressions and all sorts of looks. I think, go roll with that. If that's how you identify, that's cool. Gay adult human says, Cartesian dualist. Gender is a reduction to concepts. I'm a dualist too, but I am not a substance dualist in a Cartesian tradition, not in that sense, but I'm a property dualist. I just think that phenomenal and physical objects have different properties, but I think they're two different sets of properties of the same thing, not a separate substance. Okay, just scrolling through comments. I'm finishing this very soon. Yano the Judas Goat says, "Yeah, I feel you when it comes to education, but I lived in a post-Soviet country and it's very difficult to get a job here without having a degree, unfortunately." Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. And it's also one thing I hate about Norway is how people who have come here from other countries who have education in their countries can't get the job in that field here in Norway because they don't have education here. Um, I think they should make it much easier for people who have education a certain degree to get a job in that field here. I think that's something that needs to be talked about more. There needs to be more focus on that, really. Um, Yana also says higher education is also essentially free where I live. No such concept as student loans exist, though the quality of education is very much under question. Oh, I don't know about the quality of Russian education, but I've spent the first 16 years of my life in Poland, and I think the quality of education there was actually pretty good. Um, at least compared to Norway. Like the secondary school here in Poland was on the same level as high school is in Norway. So going to high school in Norway felt like going through the same stage of education all over again. Um, the antique little girl says, "Hi, hello, very nice to see you." Here, hi Alexander. I'm at my grandson's band's performance, but want to say hi, and I'll catch the live on replay. Thank you, thank you. Have a good time at the concert. Um, Fabi says normal people of any type don't push themselves into places where they are not wanted. The ones that do are either activists or deviant, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm always trying to do my best to not force myself where I'm not wanted. And besides, if you're not wanted there, why do you want to be there? Why do you want to be around people who don't want you, right? Um, Takaoka says it was a local doctor advised by Benestad. Oh, okay. Yeah, because there are I know there are like some few doctors in Norway here and there who are willing to subscribe hormones. I also know of some in Oslo area as well. Some doctors that it's very easy to get hormones from. Actually, my previous GP was very pushy on me after I detransitioned to take testosterone, to be on testosterone, and it was almost like this sort of fear propaganda, sort of like what will happen if you do not take those hormones. And yeah, I am well aware of the risk and side effects associated with not taking any hormones after you have had bottom surgery, but I made an informed decision not to take hormones because I think that the risk associated with taking those substances are even worse. And honestly, I will rather live with the potential, let's say, of developing less dense bones than with the risk of liver dysfunction, brain swelling, higher chance of stroke, and all of that. And I'm not telling people what they should do with their own life, but I made my own choice there. And I really didn't like how my doctor was just pushing those hormones on me even after the transition. So I changed my GP and I am much more happier now. Besides, that same doctor was actually actively giving hormones to young transgender patients as well. And I found that I had some ethical issues with that, and that's why I'm really glad I changed my GP, to be honest. Um, and Takaoka continues here by saying he didn't know shit, so he had to contact Benestad for instructions. Even worse, unprofessional considering it drastically altered my body forever. Yes. Um, really sorry to hear that. Sounds like we're in the same boat. So you know you have my sympathies there, right? Zoomer Clock says, "Will you do another live stream? I hope you do." Came late, sorry. Yeah, I probably will. I will try to do them every once in a while. I might do next one this summer or something like that. Also, like the very first live stream I did on this channel was with this detransitioned woman that I talked with on my channel. But after that, I stopped doing conversations on live streams, mostly because I think people feel more relaxed when the conversation is happening when it's not live. And besides, sometimes some people might think about it and they send me a message, hey, can you delete this one certain part where I said something? I don't really want it to go on the internet. And I'm like, yeah, cool, no problem. I will make sure to edit that part out of the video. And when it goes live, well, it's like there is no delete button there. It's been said. So I think it's when it comes to conversations, I stopped doing that on the live stream. I'm giving and I'm always make sure to share those videos with the people, ask them, hey, is there anything you want me to edit out, stuff like that. Fabio asks, what's quetiapine? It's an anti-psychotic drug. Basically, it's a drug to treat psychosis or mania. But in slower doses, you can actually even use it for sleep. Some doctors prescribe it as a sleep medicine. I think it's morally wrong to do that. It's an addictive substance, really. And I don't have a psychosis or mania or anything like that, but I just I love how it helped me just not dealing with stuff. But that's the problem, because you have to deal with stuff, right? And for me, that was just an escape. Instead of solving my issues, I decided to lock them all in a box somewhere and forget it exists. That's why I don't really recommend quetiapine. Besides, you can gain a lot of weight on quetiapine. And I don't know if I should be saying this, but if there's one good thing I can say about quetiapine, and it's not that I'm going back to doing it just because I acknowledge that, but sometimes I'm thinking going back to it. Yes, there is one thing I really liked about quetiapine, and that is how vivid your dreams are when you're on quetiapine. I think it's called Seroquel in America, but it has like it comes in different brands, this substance, in different countries. But Seroquel is a common name for quetiapine as well. And yeah, you got like those really, really vivid dreams on this substance. And actually, one of the dreams I had when I was in quetiapine, I would like to make a whole film based on that dream. I would make like a 2-hour film based on that dream, because I think it was so good. It was like watching a film, actually. But I don't say people, hey, go do drugs to get inspired. I'm not recommending that. But can drugs be inspirational like that? Yes, they can. I mean, listen to 80% of the music that's been created in the last 60 years, and there's usually been a drug influence behind that music. Zoomer Clock asks, will you make a Discord server? You're the second person to ask that, actually. Bidki asked that same question. I never thought about it, so this is the first time an idea like that has been proposed to me. I can think about it. We'll see. I think I have to have a proper idea of what that Discord server is supposed to be like. There are Discord servers meant specifically for detransitioners. I'm actually a part of one, even though I don't think I've been active there for a couple of months now. I've been quiet there. Zoomer Clock also asked, could you do a video on John Money? Never thought about that either, actually. But thanks for the idea. I will consider that. Um, Ginger Blaze says medicalization of cross-sex ideating people is over 100 years old. Huh. I actually I don't know when the hormone treatment was first used. I know, obviously, like the first case of sex reassignment surgery. I think there's even a biographical film about that came out. I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that. The film, not the first surgery, of course. Um, um, Rodolfo Erdogan asks, "Do you like dancing?" Yes, I do. Am I good at it? I don't know, but sometimes you just don't care, right? You want to have fun and you dance. But I have to feel the rhythm. I have to feel the beat. I have to be in the right mood. There are some days where I'm like somewhere at a party and I want to dance, and there are some days when I'm in the mood. It depends who I am with, how comfortable I feel. Um, Takaoka says, after Benestad lost his license, my doctor didn't want anything to do with me anymore because he got afraid they were coming for him as well if they found out. Did refer me for surgery though. Hmm. That sounds like a great doctor, really, right? Just worried about their own ass. Yeah. Joseph says, got to head out, Alex. I'll rewatch to see the rest. Thanks for this live chat. Have a good day or evening or night, buddy. Rodolfo Erdogan says, if you like to dance, it will be good if you could stand now and dance around a bit. You know, I don't think you would see anything here in this darkness. Okay, I'll do a dance at 10,000 subscribers, and that's a promise. Rodolfo also says, I wish I could date you. You are so beautiful. Oh, my boyfriend will get jealous. He might be watching this, but message me later. And he also said, pick me. Oh. Ondikle says, yeah, this trans violence is just an English-speaking country's problem. Yeah, it's a liberal country's problem in general. And Western countries. Western liberal countries' problem. Wesp says, yeah, we'll see you next time, Alex. And have a good one. Zoomer Clock, will you sell merch? Sure. If some of you would like merch, I could think of doing some of the things I said. I think one of my favorite things I said is in the why I left the left video. I said, oh, what was it I said? There's 1 million genders, but the politics are so binary, or something like that. I think that'll look good on the t-shirt, to be honest. So yeah, might think about it. Also, Zimmer Clock says, I got attacked and named called online because I disagreed with their life choices. Viva chopping their breasts off because they are non-binary. I'm fine with non-binary, and I don't think we should cut. Yeah, I think this whole idea of promoting top surgeries for non-binary people, it needs to stop. Essentially, a lot of the time, I also think that for some people, it might be safer to identify as non-binary specifically to stop them from making those permanent changes. Like, it's better, even though I'm skeptical to, whether the binary is actually a real thing. I don't think it is within the possibility of human consciousness to identify as something that is not part of our biological nature. But if you happen to be gender confused, it might be a good idea to like be there somewhere in the middle where you're not sure, rather than going like, hey, you know what, I am trans, I'm going all the way with the treatment. I think it can be a healthy stage for some people. But recently, there's been definitely a big change there when non-binary people are starting to get those top surgeries. And I don't know, maybe some of them will actually be happy with that for the rest of their life. Who knows? But chances are they're not. Um, Terry asks, do you think therapy is helpful for trans identifying adolescents if all they do is affirm? Uh, I think it's Jordan Peterson who said it, that affirmative therapy is not therapy. Because therapy is not about affirming. And I agree with that. Therapy is about challenging. And actually, a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists who are not part of the affirmative model, and even if you go to them regarding something that has nothing to do with trans, some problem you're dealing with, a lot of psychologists, unfortunately, are like, tell me more, instead of actually challenging you. And I think more psychologists should be challenging you, your way of thinking, because it is your way of thinking that got you into the situation you find yourself in. That is the source of your mental problem, right? And I wish more psychologists did that, because okay, well, it's nice to vent if you go to a therapist, but how much does that help actually? A lot of the time I find out that it doesn't really help much if you do not feel challenged. You might it's not enough if the psychologist just helps you feel understood. Um, Wasp asks, what about furries? Is this a legit thing? Definitely not my thing. If somebody likes to dress in fox or bunny or teddy bear costumes, fine. But I don't want to see that in public. But if someone does that in like special places where they are around like-minded individual want to do that, yeah, I have no problem with that. But um, and what do you mean by is it a legit thing? Do you mean do you think it's a real attraction or not? Uh, Perhaps. Well, people are attracted to animals, right? Some people. So some people will be attracted to people in animal costumes. It's borderline. You know what? I'm not going to say this video on YouTube because I don't want it to get flagged or anything like that. But you know what I mean. It's in the same way how some anime stuff, like the way some of those girls look, like it's borderline. You know what I mean. The type of person who likes that kind of stuff like rhymes with torpedo. Um, I'm I'm not going to read your comment, Rodolfo. Honestly, I think you should talk with someone about this. Tamsin says it'll be lovely to hear you play again. Um, I have to fix my guitar because there's a part of my guitar that is broken. Um, might play the acoustic one, or I might use my boyfriend's guitar for a guitar video. Would like to do more guitar stuff here on YouTube, but also I have to fix my guitar, and I'll try to get to it soon. I just haven't had time to do that, and I miss playing that guitar because it's my favorite guitar, and it's like when I play other guitars than my Gibson Les Paul, it just doesn't feel the same. I have a special connection to that guitar. It's like I can do things with that guitar that I can't do with any other guitar. Christ asks, so you have a boyfriend or is that a joke? Uh, Both, I guess. No, I do. I do have. We've been together for a couple of months now. Um, it falls under body modification and stop making it cat. As Fabius comment. Yeah. Rodolfo says, "Dude, you just hurt my feelings like a dagger." Wasn't my intention. It wasn't my intention, dude. But I think some of the things you said in the comment, you were very negative towards yourself there. The way you described yourself. Don't do that. Believe in yourself, man. You're good enough. Takoka says, I think a lot of gender dysphoria cases are trauma induced and should ideally be resolved before medical treatment, but it rarely happens in this order. Yeah, and I think it should be happening in this order, really. I think one of the issues is that there really is a lack of good therapists who actually know how to deal with this, really, and it shows. It shows. You don't have to look far to see that. Zoomer Clock says, so happy for you. I grew up with gay male family friends, not so much lesbians though. That's cool. I don't think I have any gay family members. Oh, actually, or if I do, they're not out about it. But it's likely I'm the only one in my family, actually. I feel so special. Rodolfo says, okay, so there's a chance you could love me then. Well, I'd have to know you in person, first of all. I'd have to be single. I'd have to get to know you in person. I don't think I've ever fell in love with someone online in my whole life. Is your boyfriend born male or female? Both, and 6 other genders as well. No, he's born male. I think so, at least. I don't know what he's hiding from me, to be honest. Okay. It's been 3.5 hours of this really, really nice talk. Thank you so much for stopping by. I think we'll stop here. And yeah, looking forward to the next live stream. Okay, I might answer this last question here from Zoomer Clock. What are your thoughts on Ladyboys in Thailand and also WPATH leaked files? Bye, Rodolfo. Bye. Love ya. Well, regarding the WPATH files, I will make a video on that in near future. So I'll save my thoughts for that occasion. But regarding ladyboys in Thailand, for a very long time, I thought of the term ladyboy as a slur until I discovered that they actually, a lot of the time, call themselves ladyboys. Like, they don't call themselves women, they call themselves ladyboys. And I think that's such a nice and wholesome thing, really. Like, they acknowledge what they are and they're happy with it, And I think being happy with what you are and who you are is much better than wanting to be something you can't be. I think that's a healthy approach. But other than that, I really don't know much about anything about ladyboy culture in Thailand beyond that. And usually, if I have a limited or lacking knowledge about something, I don't like to pretend like, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I just say I don't know, and this is a topic I don't know enough about to form a proper opinion on. Yes, take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are, and yeah. Oh, well, greetings and salutations, but in reverse. So salutations and greetings. Yeah. Bye, everyone.